There's no way this winter is ever going to end. Hey guys, welcome for tuning in to Full Scale Outdoors Podcast. Yeah, you got it. It's me, Dave Luganville. This episode, I sit down with a couple fellers, some hunting buddies. Kelvin Wildung, I met him through Minnesota Made Outdoors. He was one of my fellow competitors out there. And kind of just mentioned to him, we were just shooting the breeze after the last event. And I said, if you know anybody that does turkey hunting, I need to get a turkey episode coming up here in spring, as I assume all you turkey hunters out there are starting to chomp at the bit and getting as equally irritated with every snowflake that continues to fall. I'm just ready. I'm so done with this winter. Usually I can handle winter a lot better than I'm dealing with this one, but when you set like a record for snowfall in the month, it kind of wears on you, and we're so close to spring. It'll happen eventually, but whatever. So, anyways, he got back to me, and he's like, yeah, well, my buddy and I, we go down to Nebraska, and we hunt here in Minnesota, and he knows a shit ton of stuff about turkeys, and we kind of do it non-conventional way. I was like, well, perfect, let's set this up. So we got her set up, came over to my humble recording studio, my man cave, and we a few bush lights died that night, but it's all worth it. And it was a good turkey episode. I really enjoyed talking with these guys, and maybe might even hook up with them and do some turkey hunting myself. So that's pretty cool. But coming up, stay tuned. We're moving and shaking over here at Full Scale Outdoors. I got just working on some scheduling things, but they're all tentatively on the schedule here to get to sit down with some guys with a group called Band of Brothers Outdoors. They are right here in Minnesota too, and they work at getting military veterans and active duty members, just getting them outdoors, doing anything, kayaking, fishing, hunting, foraging, all sorts of good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to sitting down with those guys. And then also I've been talking to Women Anglers of Minnesota, WAM. They got a big event going on Mille Lacs this coming weekend, a big tournament up there. They're super busy, but hopefully we can get together, figure a time that works out. That's going to be a really good one too. Really interesting to sit down and talk to them. I was talking to them today, and they're going to be inducted into the Fishing Hall of Fame, the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame, because they've actually been around for like a really, 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 really long time. So it's not a new thing. It's kind of new to me. So if it's new to me, then I assume it's new to a bunch of other people. So it's going to be really cool to kind of get that word out there and share it with the rest of the world, if you will. So a couple things to look forward to, and I'm going to pester you again. If you have not done so, please subscribe to this podcast if you've been listening to it on a regular basis. I mean, why wouldn't you anyways? And then give it a rating, a good rating, you slackers, and help a brother out, if you know what I mean. So all right, let's get into some turkey talk here with Kevin Wildung and Jason Kushlan. I hope I'm saying that right. This is the Full Scale Outdoors Podcast.
Oh, here we go, boys.
Go.
Ooh, I love that sound. This is a good one. We talked about this before, we sat down and actually recorded, but they're like, monetize YouTube, there's real money to be made there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the thing is, it's not all about the money, but I mean, yeah, great. If I get to the point where we're making decent money and I can have a little bit more time to hunt more, fish more, whatever,
well,
then great. But I'm not all about the money. I'm more about, I want to teach people how to hunt, how to fish, engage people, and bring the next generation in. Because I have two young kids now, and they're the one is 6 months old, the other one is 4.5, and she's absolutely enamored with hunting and fishing.
That's awesome.
And she shot her first turkey and her first deer last year as a 4-year-old. It's serious.
That's saying something.
So, and that's a big reason. No, I am kind of a big proponent of, like in Minnesota, there's no minimum age for turkey hunting. It's just a under 12 youth tag. So the parent can take whenever they feel is the appropriate time for their child, and they're mentally capable to comprehend what they're doing and what is happening, to take them on hunt. Well, Wisconsin has the same thing for their deer season. A parent can decide when their child is ready to hunt. Well, that's, to me, waiting till they're 11 or 12 years old to hunt.
You might lose them.
By then, how many kids are already super into video games or super into other activities or phones? Exactly.
Yep, they're stuck in these.
What else is there? I mean, there's so many other things that gets it to where their minds have that instant gratification.
As Kevin dives right into his phone.
Yeah, exactly. Don't mind me. I'm just
So
Ooh, an update.
right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and to me, you're able to get that generation interested in it before these other things. And for me, she begged me to take her hunting. She had been in the blind turkey hunting since she was 2. So she's been out, not a lot, but she's been out a few times. She begged me, and I'm just fortunate enough to have a place that has a lot of turkeys, and I knew it would be somewhere where we'd have action, keep her interested, and hopefully get an opportunity. Well, sure enough, she ended up getting her first turkey. Then she's begging me to go deer hunting.
I bet.
So
She's in it now. She's in it for sure.
Oh.
See, I have 2 kids, and neither one of them are like super into the outdoors. I mean, they're just not. I'm not going to force it. Like, they just aren't. And just the way the dynamic was. I mean, they lived with her mom, who lived in Arizona, so I only had them. You know, I generally didn't have them during hunting season. So they're kind of both like fishing a little more than they like hunting.
Right.
I just never really had the opportunity to take them hunting, but they moved to Minnesota to live with me later in life. But then, you know, when they're in their teens,
like,
you know, that's hard. That's hard to hook them, but it's not impossible.
No,
but,
it's not.
But they have to be interested in it.
You have to be
and
interested.
and like my son, he's just not that interested in it. Right. I mean, he loves to fish. He likes to bass fish, but only if it's like they're committing suicide.
Exactly.
You know, if you go 20 minutes without a bite, or you got to actually kind of work on it, he'll sit down and he'll be right in that phone.
Right.
And I'm not gonna be like, put that fucking phone down. We're out here fishing. Well, you don't have to like this.
Right.
Like, it'd be great if you did. We'll spend more time together. But I'm also okay with you being in the boat with me while I fish, and you are on your phone. I don't care.
Right.
We're still spending time together.
Right.
That's all that really matters to me. Like, I don't care. I mean, sure, wave a wand. In the perfect world, you'd be dorking out full on like me, and we could dork out together. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, who doesn't want that with their kids? But it doesn't have to be that way.
Right. Well, and that's like, I take the oldest. I would take her out in the bass boat, and she'd sit. If it was sunny, I'd lay like a little blanket over the second console, you know, the passenger side, from there to the seat, and, you know, put some sunscreen on her, and she'd sit down there and be playing with frickin' 7-inch ribbon tails, you know, stretching them around and everything.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'd be fishing, and I'd set the hook on one. I'd be like, hey, come here. And she'd run up there, and I'd give her, okay, reel. And I'd hold the rod and help her hold it up, and she'd reel it in. And, I mean, she loved it. And she's caught smallmouth. She's caught largemouth. She's caught trout when we were out west in Montana. And so, I mean, I'd really try to get her involved, mostly because she shows so much of an interest. If she wasn't showing an interest in it at all, then it's like, well, she's young. She's not interested. Whatever,
Right.
we'll wait. But she's so interested now. How could I keep it away from her?
Yeah, she wants it. You got to definitely
And she
keep it going.
She begs me. We got her turkey fan done. She wants that hanging in her room. She shot a doe, and me and my fiance are going back and forth. Wow, shoot, you know. And we ended up saying she wanted us to mount it. She was begging, and we talked about it, and we're like, well, let's just do it. Me and her were in the blind with her, so me and my fiance and her all together. We got it on film. It was fun. It was family. It was a memory that we'll never forget. I said, you know, that's more than inches is about, you know, to me. I don't care if she just shot a spike.
She's hooked.
So he said, let's mount it.
Forget it. She's hooked.
She's gonna be broke forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Way
to go,
week,
Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Good investment.
Every week she's asking, when can we go get my deer from the taxidermist? I want to hang it on the wall. So she's just all itching about that, you know. And
I'm pretty stoked. I got so I have a trip going. We're headed to the Keys, and me and my brother have been talking about this trip for forever, because he lives in South Carolina, and you know, he's had a decent boat on there, but this year he upgraded, and he's got a really slick boat. I love it. And we've always talked about, like, you're not that far from Florida. Like, it's a drive, but it's not an impossible drive. Like, trailer that thing down there. We can Airbnb a house, and I mean, you go down there and you get a charter. That's $1,200 or $2,000 a day for a deep sea charter or whatever.
Boat.
It's like, dude, we'll save so much money, and we're both kind of DIYers. Like, I'm a serial DIYer when I can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I obviously can't DIY a big blue water, a deep ocean Marlin chair. Like,
what, you don't
I'm just gonna run out and buy a $500,000 boat, $10,000 worth of equipment, and then figure it out in a weekend. Like,
what, you don't want to just venture out 7 miles offshore and see if you can catch something?
Oh yeah,
I got this.
And I'll need that 20-foot net. I've never thrown a 20-foot caster, but I'll need one of those quick. So I know I'm gonna need bait. Like, you can't. I mean, some things like that you can't DIY, and it's worth every penny for as much money as that ticket is. If you have to save up and do whatever, I recommend everybody do it. Like, it's awesome. It's an experience. Just the color of the water is different for anybody that hasn't been on the big ocean. Like, just everything about it is so unique for people that grow up in Minnesota, fish their whole life, and like, you don't understand. This is a different animal. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different, and I recommend it to everybody. And anytime you go to somewhere different, So what we're doing when we go there, we're going to get a guide that's going to guide on our boat for the first day.
Oh, that's cool.
To kind of show us the waters, because we kind of want to do more. His boat isn't. It can go if the seas are decent, relatively decent. It can handle it. It's a pretty good sized boat, but it's not gonna. We can't do giant swells.
Right.
So we're going to stay relatively close, and probably take a day and just do the flats and do the mangroves, and then take a day and maybe hit if the weather's right. Yeah, we'll run out to a reef, or a wreck or something. That's that'd be great. Catch some amberjack, catch some whatever. But it's going to be nice to have that guide. It's going to give us like real time knowledge of what's the bite, where to find the bait. How to navigate, because some of those you get out in the Keys, and some of those, especially if you're in the flats, like if you don't run that channel just right, the wrong tide, you're fucked for 4 hours.
Right.
Seriously, so that knowledge is invaluable. This is worth every penny, whatever he costs, whatever it's taken us to hire this guy for a day. So then we're gonna do that. But what I'm most excited about is I'm gonna be there for the full week, but I'm sending my daughter and my son's meeting us down there for like just a couple days. It's a quick turnaround flight. They're coming in a Thursday, and we'll fish Friday. We pack out Saturday. We'll spend a day in Miami just hanging out and doing whatever. But we're getting a blue water charter for Friday, and I'm just like, I'll probably never pick up a rod. Like, I better get like 5 of those battery packs for my phone, because I'm just gonna be filming every minute of that, because I just want to, like, if they can get hooked up with something big, and I don't care what it is, doing an amberjack, sailfish, I don't care, big Dorado, big mahi or something, like, they're going to just shit
a
their
shark.
Pants. Right? Sharks are awesome, dude.
Right.
I already said this a bunch of times on this podcast, like, I love sharks. And I've caught a bunch of them, because I go down to South Carolina every year. We fish out at Hilton Head, me and my brother and my nephew. And you catch a bunch of them. You catch a bunch of little ones. And I don't care. Like, I catch a little tiny Atlantic sharpnose or a bonnet head, little 3-footer. They're basically the perch of the ocean. Like, you're like, bait stealing bastards. But I'm like,
they're cool.
It's a shark, dude. I just caught a shark. I caught a shark. And I've caught some decent-sized sharks. Nothing 10, 12 feet or anything like that. No. I think the biggest one I've caught is maybe 4 or 5. But it's like, it's a fucking shark.
It's a shark, yeah.
And more than anything, for like people from Minnesota, it's like, go catch a shark.
Right.
They're everywhere. This is something you can DIY. You don't need a guide for this. I promise you. Use the knowledge that you have on how water works, and just pay attention to the tides. Look at your tide chart. Mm-hmm. Like that might be a little bit scary for you at first, or intimidating at first. Don't let it intimidate you. Just think of it as a river that reverses flow a couple times a day.
Yep.
And just play that current, because their fish are fish are fish. Yep. So They're going to want current breaks. They're going to want places that the food comes to them. They're going to stage. They know when that tide's going to turn. So put yourself in a position to when that tide turns and you're there waiting for them to, they're, they're predator fish. They know. They're not just like, oh, crap, the tide turned. Now what do we do? No, this is their life, man. They know,
what's going on?
They know what they're doing. So,
well, and speaking of that, my dad is going down to Galveston in a week. And he went and bought like some big catfish rods, and some gear. And it's like, what line should I use? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm to call a bait shop down there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he got a bunch of stuff, and he's all excited. They're gonna go and fish off of some of the piers and fish offshore and stuff.
He's great,
like,
man.
They were down there like 3 years ago or something, and there were people catching stuff all the time out there. And he's like, I gotta do it. If we're going back down, I'm fishing.
I don't care what I do. One of the vacations we take, me and the wife, we always try to go somewhere for our anniversary and like the first week of May. And we were in New Orleans. And then we did the New Orleans thing for a few days, and we were like, all right, we've seen New Orleans. Time to do something else.
Next.
I'm like, Baton Rouge. That sounds like a cool place. Let's go check that out. Pretty unimpressed. So I'm like, I don't know what else to do. We like to go see like real America, like drive through the countryside.
Right.
Like we're not touristy people.
Like Monowai population
one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We're not. I mean, we would love that place.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we would love that place.
Well, don't blink too long.
Well,
You'll miss it.
Hey,
I don't even think you need to do a full
part of my childhood was in Orr, Minnesota, which is nothing. Like blink and you'll miss it. Well, now there's a stoplight, so if you're lucky and you hit that on red, you might actually get to look around for a minute.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will miss it.
That's a lot like Cook.
Yeah, well,
Cook's bigger.
Cook was the big town.
Yeah.
Cook was the big town when we were up there.
Yep.
But
I
where was I
remember
going?
when Cook got a
So
Subway.
I had a friend of mine,
Big news.
a classmate that I knew she lived in Pensacola. And the weird thing, you wouldn't think, you're in Louisiana, you wouldn't think, well, let's go to Florida. But the way Florida is shaped with that panhandle, and like I Google mapped it, I'm like, dude, we're 4 hours from Pensacola. That's nothing. And we can drive through Mississippi and Alabama, check a couple more states off our list, and go see some, rural South. Like that's kind of what we like. We didn't actually. We just ran that coastal highway because I called her up, or I got a hold of her, and they're like, oh, this is the first. I'm like, is there anything going on? Like something? They're like, oh yeah, this is the first like night of music in the park, and the so and so is playing. It's like rockabilly. I'm like, that is up our alley.
Yeah.
What time does it start? I'm like, baby, we get on the road right now. We'll get there right when it starts. Let's do it. I'm gone. I mean, we just boom. We just went. We just drove down and just down the Gulf Highway, whatever it is. And it was awesome. But there's a pier there in Pensacola, and you like rent a fishing rod. Like I didn't have any shit with me, so I rent this fishing rod for $5 or $15 or whatever it is, and in that is like your license is included in that. It's like
really,
yeah, it's like part of your permit to fish there if you fish just on the pier. It just covers you for the pier or whatever. And I'm like, well, what baits to use and what? And then the little bait shop right there at the dock had everything. I'm like, sweet. And I just went there. I caught little bluefish, and
that'd be cool.
Well, almost caught ladyfish, which I've yet to catch a ladyfish still. And I love to catch one of everything. Right. Like I don't care how big or small it is. Like, oh, got that one checked off the list.
Yep.
Yet to actually physically put my hands on a ladyfish, and it's irritating the shit out of me. and I hooked a bunch of them that day, but they kept getting off. They call them the poor man's tarpon because they jump and they freak out when you hook them, and they kind of sort of look like them a little bit, but they don't get
5 feet long.
Yeah, they don't get that giant. So I finally get a good, and I'm fighting it for love. Finally get like a good hookup. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this one. Whoosh! A dolphin takes it. Literally takes. I'm like, zzz, I'm like, shit. Crank that drag down just so the line snaps. I'm like, good, you asshole. That one was mine. Why couldn't you have taken one of the other ones that just got off anyways?
I'm glad I'm not the only one that has that sort of luck with things. It's like, this is going to be perfect. No, it's not. Try again.
There's been a few times that this is perfect, and well,
this is
different. There goes that turkey.
Yep. Oh, my goodness.
We haven't even talked about turkey, which is like the reason I
know,
I got
right?
you guys on.
I
We
know.
talked turkey. We haven't even touched on it. So there's my segue. See, I'm a trained radio professional.
Right. Guys going.
Well, and I guess we do turkey hunt Minnesota.
Yep.
And I've done a little in Wisconsin, but our real forte
Bread and butter. Yeah.
is out west.
Yep.
I mean, not like you said, you go somewhere different to experience different things and different terrains or different habitats. And that goes with anything, whether you're talking deer, waterfowl, turkeys, pheasants, anything. Well, we go out there just because, I mean, there are different subspecies of turkeys. So in Minnesota, Wisconsin, we have what they call the eastern subspecies. And out there, they're Merriams.
Yep.
And they act different because of, they're different subspecies, but they act completely different because of the terrain. So these birds out west, I mean, they're super visible from long ways, but they're not like an eastern that loves field
Yep.
edges. They like the timber more than anything, from what I've noticed. I mean, you'll see them out in the open, in the prairie and stuff like that, but a lot of times, like look at where we hunted before, they're always down in the big, deep draws. They're not up in the fields as much, maybe a little in the morning to feed, but most of the time they're down in the big timber, which isn't as indicative of what we find around here for what I'm used to hunting anyways. I mean, maybe southern Minnesota in the bluffs.
Yep.
But for me, I've always hunted around here just field edges. So it's a different kind of terrain. The turkeys act a little different. You're in steep terrain versus
flatland stuff around here.
I mean, locally, we're central Minnesota. It's pretty flatland. Really, out there, we're hunting the Missouri River breaks, and it can be, 300 feet almost straight up in some areas.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of up and down.
My turkey hunting consists of every year I buy a tag. Every year I go out and I hunt like basically one day for about 2 hours. I'm like, all right, well, that was dumb. Let's go home.
I donated my part to conservation.
And I've never shot one. But however, I want to get one with a bow. It's like I have zero interest.
Oh,
but
my
that's
goodness.
the thing. I don't care if I eat that tag. Like,
Well, and
had
you
I
can't.
have been had I been using a gun,
Game
I would have
over.
tagged out every time I've gone out. And I'm not lying. And this is coming from, I am not a turkey hunter. I have no idea what the fuck I'm really doing. I mean, I know enough. I mean, I pay attention. I've watched enough shows. I've listened to enough people. Like, I know enough. Obviously, I've been in front of turkeys. I've gotten turkeys to come in front of me. But it's just, when you can sit there perfectly still and you have the gun on your lap and you're already looking down it and you're just waiting for them to get into your sight picture, or if you have to move just a little bit, that's a hell of a lot different than having to come to full draw, which is a lot of movement on ground level with a bird that is evolutionarily specialized in picking out movement.
Exactly.
Like you
that's
are
true.
behind the 8 ball every time when you're on their playing field.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
I don't have the turkey bug enough that like, well, I'm just going to get one with a shotgun and get that off my back, and then I'll go to the bow. It's like, no, this is how I want it. If I can't go with a bow, I don't want it.
Well, and the thing for me is I don't mind shooting them with a gun once in a while, but I love bow hunting them.
I've been trying to talk myself into it. I've literally been trying to talk myself into just like, what does it matter with you? Just get one. Get one under your belt.
Well, once you shoot one and you eat it, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to do anything I got to do to kill another one of them. But
I'm sure they're delicious.
They are delicious.
I have a turkey right out back, so that's probably pretty close.
Get him with the bow. That's a good one to break in.
Super easy.
Right.
Yeah. bang on the bucket.
Right.
Like I'm running. Here's you go to a turkey call? Oh yeah. Bum 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 bum. Rattle some grain in a bucket.
What do you use? Box call, slate? Nope, I use a spoon. Just rattle it.
Wait till they get up on the bird feeder on the deck and just open the sliding door. There's right there. I usually hear her up on the deck before I see her. I'm like, crap, she's eating the bird feed. Kick her off.
Yeah, I thought we saw some. Yeah, you're saying we saw some
turkey.
Yeah,
those
there's
turkey
tracks.
He goes, them are chickens. I said, well, that's a big fucking chicken.
No, I have a turkey. I had a tom to go with the hen, but he was an asshole, so I decided to have him for Thanksgiving this year.
There you go. Well, God, there you had a good practice partner for turkey.
Oh,
right.
I really wanted to do this. I mean, I shouldn't say wanted to because I didn't really want to, but there was a dark part of me that wanted to do this. Is this set because I have I have a tom turkey decoy and everything. It would be hilarious. Some morning, go set that thing, and he's such an asshole. He'd fall for it for sure because he never not gobbles. Like, I don't care what the calendar says. Like, all day, every day, gobbles, nonstop. And he's super, like, he's never actually attacked me, but, like, if I turn my back, he'll head down low and he'll kind of come at me like he wants to. And I'm like, do it. I fucking dare you. I'm waiting till Thanksgiving, but if you do peck me before Thanksgiving, I will eat you in August.
I have a freezer.
I do not care. I want you to do it. Please do it. Please do it. Give me a reason. But when it came time to actually harvest him, I was like, God, this would be the easiest hunt of all. Not just because he's tame, but because his personality was just so aggressive that if I put a tom turkey decoy out there, the moment he stepped out that coop door, I was like, oh, what in the fuck is that? Oh, hell no. Like, it wouldn't have to call nothing. He would have came on a dead sprint right to that thing to fuck that decoy up, and it had just been game over. Like, that would have actually made for a pretty comical video.
I'm going to raise him and then hunt him.
Welcome to Texas ranch hunting.
Yeah, Dale shoots a great turkey on video every year.
They look really weird, too. They're always different looking. So.
Why does that one have weird barring?
Yeah, the breed I raise are called Narragansetts, and they're actually so they're developed in Narragansett, Massachusetts. That's how they got their name. But they're a mixed breed between they bred them with the wild turkey. That's how they developed the breed. The breed was a domestic turkey, half domestic, half wild, and they kind of got one in between. But I'll tell you, I mean, I'm sure wild turkey is really great, and I've never had it. I like all wild game, so there's no reason I know I'm going to like it when I finally have it. But I've generally not been a big fan of turkey meat, like store-bought turkey. It's completely dry.
It's completely different.
Yeah, I know they're not
I
the
would
same.
take a wild turkey every day of the week over a store-bought turkey.
We don't even
buy store turkeys anymore.
Yeah.
Why ever?
I mean, literally wasn't. I would eat it once a year, Thanksgiving, just out of tradition. Drown that fucker in gravy just because, how it's so dry.
Yeah. Right.
Dry tasting. I mean, even if you cut it and there's moisture in it, it's still
It's
dry
gone.
tasting.
Right.
Right.
Well, see,
Chalky,
the only good thing about wild turkey is that it's not entirely just white meat. I mean, the dark meat comes from the usage of the muscles, obviously.
Right.
So they actually use the muscles. However, the breast meat on a wild turkey isn't like dark meat like on a turkey leg.
Right.
I mean, it's still fairly light colored, but it has, I don't know, there must be more fat in it or something because it is way more tender and it's got more juice to it. It's awesome. I love it. We eat as much of it as we can kill.
And that's the thing. Like, not to turn this into a poultry episode, but this breed, which is why I got attracted to raising this breed, is that it's kind of a cross in between. And the first time I had it for Thanksgiving, it was like, this is the best turkey I've ever had in my life. Like, this is not a butterball. Like, this actually, and it helps that I free range them, so they're not just sitting in a cage getting fat. Like you said, they're actually using their muscles.
Yep.
And so they're firm. It's the meat is the meat. I do that right in the microphone.
Right.
That's what I always do. I love that. It's a little side shoot. The podcast I just recorded with Captain Josh was the first podcast I've recorded that I wasn't drinking an alcoholic beverage. I was actually having water, which is really weird.
I don't know what I'm doing with my hands.
Right, but I got a hold of you guys because Kevin, you were in Minnesota Made.
Yep.
The ice fishing tournament with me. How did you guys finish this year?
We took 12.
12.
So, not too bad.
Kicked your ass.
You sure did. Yeah.
What did you take? 11th?
Oh.
Eighth place,
Yeah, which was, I bet if you looked at the numbers, we're probably pretty close.
Right.
For total weight. Or
Yeah.
for points, I mean.
We had a pretty good year overall. I mean, I was fishing with a partner. It was his first tournament season. And I remember last year being my first tournament season. So, it's a different, completely different vibe than just going out on a Saturday or Sunday and just trying to catch fish. And
for sure. It was Joel and I's first
Yep.
tournament ice fishing season. So, I mean,
Yep.
we're pretty happy with the top 10 finish. Absolutely. But not to get too derailed on that, but I was talking to him like, what I need. Do you know any turkey guys? So I'm like, we're
Right.
coming up the spring. The Minnesota turkey season is like right around the corner. I'm like, I kind of want to be timely with this podcast.
Yep.
Like, people are thinking we keep getting dumped on with snow here this year. People are tired of winter. And the cabin fever is gonna be setting in hard if it hasn't already. I know it has for me. Like,
Yep.
I'm starting to really dork out on snow geese. Like, I had a dream the other night, a literal, legit snow goose hunting dream, and it was so bad I was actually successful in that said dream, which almost never happens. Like literally, like dreams this never happen. Like something goes wrong, like you go to shoot and BBs dribble out the end of your gun. Or, like there's always something stupid, you know. Dreams like just warp reality. Well,
Next thing you know, you're building a go-kart with your
ex
neighbor.
Right, something stupid like that. But that's how bad it was. I actually had a successful snow goose hunting dream.
You're like,
but
wait
I'm
a
like,
minute.
and you're like, hey, I go turkey hunting all the time.
Right,
My hunting buddy. I'm like, well, let's set it up, and you know.
Yep.
So let's dive into that. And so like I like what you were talking about, how it's different in Nebraska than it is, and yeah, they are different subspecies, but it's what I find interesting about that is that can be said for whitetails too, or anything, even fishing.
Exactly.
It's like as I travel this country and I experience different things, it doesn't matter if I'm bass fishing, if it's in a different it's interesting to me to see the local way, the way the locals target whatever it is, whether it's a fish or a bird or a deer, or whatever. It's really interesting because and I'm sure it's dictated by the topography and the habitat and stuff like that, but they matter. So while some of your skills, if you're a turkey hunter in Minnesota, some of your skills are going to transfer over to Nebraska, but probably not all of them.
No. Well, and that's a big thing for us. I mean, we don't even. I honestly don't think I hunt them hardly any bit the way I do here.
No.
I mean, I hunt here. Yeah, I go. I'll scout for birds, see birds out there, and if I'm bow hunting, I'll go set the blind up, and I'll go sit in the blind and wait for them to come off the roost, and hopefully call them in or whatever. Out there, I mean, how many times have we really been successful where you've seen birds there, and you go set up that morning, and they're there? I mean, almost never.
No.
I mean, they're always moving, and usually not in the same manner every day.
No.
So a lot of times, we hunt them more like a spot and stock than anything.
Yeah, it's definitely because, like, around here in Minnesota, a lot of time, especially with topography and just access to land, I mean, a lot of time a guy gets handcuffed with just having to kind of hunt a spot. You know, you see the birds there at some point in time in the day, you try to figure out how to get a game plan together, and you try to beat them to that spot.
Right.
Whereas
if it's public land
or even private, I mean, I got a family farm, and we know that birds are around it, but it's always what time of day are they going to be there. Sure. And you have to play the waiting game a lot. But you get out west, and the visibility and the open country and the advantages of having the topography changes, where you got ridges and hills, where if you see a bird, you can make a play on it. You can go to that bird, versus here in Minnesota where a lot of them birds are going to get into a swamp, or they're going to be in some timber, and they may just be in there all day.
Right.
Whereas Nebraska, if you see a bird that's out, you can be like, well, okay, if I kind of swing around the top of this ridge, I can kind of get ahead of him and see where he's kind of going, try to get ahead of him. And
right. Well, and there's enough elevation change.
Yep.
So around here, for one, we're hunting small pieces of ground.
Yep.
I mean, this central Minnesota is how many?
That's how you do it.
How many pieces of ground around here are bigger than 40 acres?
Right.
Or 60 acres. I mean,
they're around, but
but there is tons of those 10 and 20 acre pieces. And most of the time, around here anyways, from doors I've knocked on, almost every one of them getting hunted. Mm-hmm. So not only are the birds pressured, and they're small pieces of ground, so you really can't work around the birds. You have no elevation change, even if you did want to get around on birds, to get around on them, because you're so visible because it's pretty flat.
Or you're hunting right in timber. I mean, we have there's so many trees in parts of Minnesota that it's like, good luck finding a clearing. Like,
right.
I mean, there's certain turkeys in this state where that stereotypical set your decoy up in a nice green pasture and call them and get them strutting, like, you could be on an 80-acre plot of land that doesn't have a single opening. Mm-hmm. It's just hardwoods, and there's turkeys in there. They're not going to travel a mile just to find a field to strut in. They're going to breed. That's where they're going to breed right there. They're going to strut right there.
Well, and it changes so quickly too in the spring because you got the growth of everything too, all that underbrush. So there might be a certain point in time where turkeys are going to be in a certain area. Maybe, a week prior to season opening.
Food-wise, probably.
Yep.
New buds coming up.
Exactly. Then and part of it's cover too. So birds aren't going to want to be in stuff that's going to be so heavily vegetated that they can't see around because they're going to be so susceptible to predators. So a lot of times maybe a bird is in an area and all of a sudden we get a couple of sunny days, vegetation starts growing. They're going to start moving out of that area per se to make sure that when they come off their roost in the morning or when they're just out, eating or just doing whatever they're doing, that they're not susceptible to predators. So a guy could theoretically say, well, I saw him here 2 weeks ago, but by the time they get out there, they could be, 2 farms over, or down the road.
Sure.
And with the limited amount of space you have here.
Right.
So I wonder how we should structure this. I kind of want. So should we talk about what your turkey plan would be for Minnesota, and then talk about how it would be different in Nebraska?
Yeah, we can.
So maybe start with like the stereotypical, because I think Minnesota turkey hunting is kind of stereotypical.
Yep.
Yeah.
Except for like the extreme situations, like I said, where maybe your plot of land has no.
Right. Or if you're down in like bluff country,
strutting field or something like that. So you're stereotypical, kind of. So you said you scout. So when you're scouting, let's just start at square one. When you're scouting preseason, what are you looking for? And I know one year I was scouting. There's a shit ton of snow.
Yep.
Right. So that's a factor.
That's case in point. When I moved up to my house 2 years ago, it's an hour away from where I normally hunt, so it's like, wow, it's not as easy to just bop out, especially with kids, to just, I'm going to leave, be out there all day, whatever. At least find something close, it's a little easier to hunt. All I did is I'd get up early in the morning, right before the sun is going to come up, when the birds are going to start talking a little bit, and I would just drive, and I'd stop, and I'd shoot out a locator call, whether it be an owl or a crow, and I'd drive a little further, half a mile down the road, hit it again. Until I found somewhere that had bird respond to me. So I found a couple, and I marked them on the map, on my Onyx map. And it's like, all right, I'm going back to all these landowners that I heard birds coming from now, because I know that I'm going to have an archery tag, which is the whole season long.
Yeah, they changed it.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
You. Yeah.
So I know with my archery tag, I'm going to be able to hunt that first week. I'm only about a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of them, at that time. And I went and knocked on as many doors that I could that I had located turkeys on to get permission. I mean, that's my scouting. If I already have permission on a couple places, and I know there's birds there that seasonally use the place in the spring, then I'll go and I'll walk and see where they're using them. Maybe I'll throw a few trail cameras up even and get some pictures. I've done that a lot on a couple of pieces I hunt. Is I'll throw cameras up and I'll just, hey, I'm getting pictures of these birds coming by here every couple days or every day, and there's a couple nice toms, and I'll just monitor them that way.
Are you doing it preseason, like before the season opens? You're doing this
preseason and through the season if I still have a tag.
So I mean, I'm going to go back to like last year, because last year I actually logged in a fair amount of time scouting, and I'm not far from a really big wildlife management area here. It's a pretty popular one, Carlos Avery,
right?
And it gets hunted a lot.
Right.
But there's a couple spots that are quite a ways in. I found on the satellite, I'm like, okay, most hunters are lazy, and they like to hunt pretty close to their vehicle. Me, I'm a glutton for punishment, as you witnessed today. Pulling that stupid sled through
Thanks, by the way.
Stupid snow.
That was awesome.
Like, I don't
Did a great job.
know how else to do it. Like, I don't. And I'm like, I don't care.
That's
I
how
will
we do
hike.
it too.
I will hike a mile or two in to get to, even if there isn't birds, like just to be left alone.
Right.
I like this. I like I like the solitude of it. But
there's more
so
than that.
I kept walking, and there was deep snow last year. We had snow late last year,
Yep.
well into the turkey season.
Well, we
there
didn't.
was still
Our
snow.
last snow we got was like April 8th.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was like 12 inches.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember when my little girl shot her bird. It was the first weekend of the season. There was snow on the ground.
Yep.
So I guess what I was trying to say is that if you're driving around and you're trying to locate them through calling and getting them to answer back to you, like there's times they're not talking.
Right.
Yep.
So like I went into the woods, like because there's snow, I could see where they've been. I could see the tracks. If I'm like, and that's all I really wanted to know. I'm like, okay, I know they're here. That's all I wanted to know. I know they're using this area, and then I would just back out. Like I didn't need to, I'm like,
See
okay,
them
I
or hear
know,
'em.
yeah,
You
I
know
know
their
because they
sign.
weren't talking. I mean, I didn't hear them at all.
Right, and there's a lot of birds that'll do that. They
Oh,
may
yeah.
gobble once or twice, especially if it's cold out like it was last year. And our scouting for our opening day, essentially, I could not get up early enough to get up to our family farm. There was no way. But there was snow on the ground. And so luckily enough, the farmer had planted corn. So when you think about the habits of winter turkeys, typically they're going to end up in a pick cornfield at some point in time. They like to get in there, they like to scratch, they like to turn up the dirt, they like to eat the kernels. So that's how we scouted. We went through there and we literally walked the entire field edge, and there was a low spot in there. And we're like, okay, so it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, it's like, well, there's turkey tracks, there's a lot of scratching in here. I'm assuming that based on the topography and where the trees are, I'm like, there's got to be a roost tree maybe somewhere close, and we're going to, this is out of any spot in this field, this is where they're going to want to be at some point in time. Right. And it goes back to that style of Minnesota hunting where most of the time you're going to be in a blind for a while at times, and you're going to be waiting them out. So, and it worked out. We had cousin shot one, literally 15 minutes into the season, and I had an opportunity 2.5 hours later after we wrangled the other one after chasing it through the swamp. So it was.
Well, and that's a lot of it. When we're talking that we're hunting field edges and in a blind, we're talking archery.
Yep.
I mean, I just don't gun hunt Minnesota. I don't want to have to draw a tag.
It could be a gun. Like the how you're finding them, how you're hunting them doesn't really change. I mean,
well, there's
your range is pretty much the same. I mean, if you're half decent with your archery equipment,
right. Yes and no.
Generally, you're trying to get them in pretty close. You're not, you're not.
Well, another thing, I mean,
making a 100-yard shot.
Right.
Probably not.
And going back to what you said on mapping them, looking at aerial, trying to find a spot away from where you're looking. If it's somewhere you've never been, turkeys are very similar to deer in the fact that they use terrain or habitat breaks. Where you might have, say, there's, a bunch of planted pines, and that butts up to, some hardwood, oaks, maples, whatever. They're going to like using those terrain breaks and those features. They're going to want to be where multiple different terrains or whatever come together. So if you can find somewhere where there's a field edge and a pine or a pine grove and some oaks and stuff, where all that comes together, there's more than likely, maybe not right then, but at some time through the season, usually there's going to be birds there. So I'll look for that. I'll look for terrain breaks and, if there's a big, long fence line that cuts into some trees and it's real brushy. I mean, they use a lot of that stuff very similar to how deer do.
Yeah. Yeah, check if you're ever on a property that's got a fence line, walk the entire fence line because most of the time there's some sort of a break in there, or there's a check, or like in Nebraska, it worked out real good that one year because there was a section of hog fence that was not in literally a.
So to access the field, they had to go through.
Right,
that
and that hog fence come up for like 300 yards.
Yep.
Come to the peak of this ridge, and just over the other side, it stopped and was then just 3-strand barbed wire. Well, we set up on the wrong hill that morning. The birds were gobbling. They ended up coming up off the other ridge. We watched probably 180, 200 birds come out, and they all...
One spot in the fence.
And I'm like, God, they really like that spot. Mm-hmm. Well, then when we went over and walked over there later that day, I'm like, well, no wonder they can't cross it without flying.
Yep.
And it worked out good.
We ended up resistance.
Yep. We ended up seeing the birds. We left, and we weren't going to hunt it until the next morning. We're like, let's go check it out and see if they're coming back in the evening. Well, sure enough, we seen the birds coming, so we hauled butt, got out there, got across on the other side of the fence, and we basically, I took the handsaw, and we cut out a blind in the center of this cedar tree. How many birds did we have come by?
I don't know. You could have a clicker out there, and you'd still not get them all.
Dude, it was insane.
It's one of those.
And it came out, and my fiance was with us, and you were there.
Yep.
And we're just waiting, and the birds are right there. We can't shoot to the fence. We're waiting for them to walk right through this little opening that we had cut out. And they'd walk.
Jake, hen.
And she had an opportunity. A nice tom stopped and come through at 20 yards, and she smoked him. And then I think you shot and skipped an arrow off of one.
Of course.
And then
archery equipment. I can't hit the broadside of the barn when it comes to a turkey.
If we had... I don't even know if I can count on both hands how many times we've had issues with you and your bow with turkeys.
Every time. We're just going to go with that.
More range time, bro.
And then I took your bow.
Yep.
With your bow,
right.
And I shot and I missed one, but it's completely not set up anywhere near where.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that worked out really good because we went out there and we had found birds roosted that morning in the dark. We seen what they were doing. We made a play on them and got around for the evening when they're coming back, and it worked out. We had probably 75 or 100 birds in front of us.
Yep.
Within 30 yards.
That's pretty cool.
So
I want to bring it back to Minnesota hunting though. So our plan. Okay, we've scouted. You kind of know okay. You've picked your spot that you're gonna hunt.
Yep.
Opening day. What's your day in? What's your play?
Well, a lot of times I like setting my blind up a day or even 2 or the
Yep.
night before so that it's there and I don't have to worry about setting it up in the dark. Not that it's hard, but I mean, I like to get close to the roost. If I know where they're roosting, I want to be under 100 yards.
And I've heard that they're not turkeys aren't like deer where they're like
You got to brush it in, and you got to
can set it up that morning in the dark and they don't care.
Oh, exactly, and I don't brush them in at all.
Where a deer is like, hey,
What is
that
that?
wasn't
Right.
there yesterday.
Yep.
I'm gonna avoid that like the plague.
I've set them up and had turkeys walk by 20 minutes later and
Yeah.
trip over the string holding the blind down.
But now you don't have to get up extra early that
Yep.
morning and dick around
Right.
with it. You can just
or a lot,
walk right out
or
to
if you're in an area with a lot of pressured people, you're making that extra noise.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You got a 4-wheeler or side by side. You're hauling ass across a field.
Right.
You know, and they're aware of it. You know,
Right.
Like,
And they
that's
may
different.
not spook out of the roost tree.
Right.
Say I set up 60 or 80 yards away from the roost. They may not spook and fly out of the tree, but if it's early enough or it's getting to be gray light, even if they don't see you, they heard something over there.
So they might choose to fly
and
the
they
other
might
direction,
pitch
out
off
of
the other direction.
out
Exactly.
of the roost trees. Yeah.
I mean, they
makes sense.
and it's not as big of a deal if it's dark, black.
Yep. No full moon.
And you can walk. I mean, you could walk by. They have deer walk by them. They have coyotes walk by them at night. I mean, it's not a big deal. But when it's getting to be that gray light, you better be set up because they, like you said before, they can pick up movement and they're really good at it.
And insanely good.
270 degrees.
It's crazy.
That's their vision.
I mean,
Yep.
they're seeing full color too.
Yep.
You know, it's not.
Yep.
They're,
So, to me, I like the fact of having it set up ahead of time, just so that I got that blind right where I want it. I set it up in the daylight. I know it's facing where I think they're coming. It's perfect. I mean, how many times have you set up a blind in the dark? You're like, oh, it could have been just a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit to the left. I can't see down
yeah,
that way.
that's a good point. That's a good point too. And even if you want to dry run it, because I was just in my mind, I was just thinking like, okay, well, that's great if you are on private property, but if you're on public property, you don't want somebody to jack. Unfortunately,
Yep.
people like to steal shit. So I mean, you don't want somebody. You set your blind up 3 days early. There's a good chance you go there opening morning and that blind ain't there anymore.
Right.
Well,
So, but you could do a dry run though. You could set it
That's
up
important.
and see it how it looks, and then sit in there and be like, okay, that's a good. Maybe I need to just shift it 10 degrees to the right or whatever. You
Well,
know?
it's not even so much. It's part of it's that, but my biggest thing or hang up when setting up blinds, it's what's actually inside that blind. Like if you're trying to set up a blind in the dark or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you got this big stick, or you don't have a spot where you
sapling or some
right,
rock
or it's covered in leaves that's 2 feet deep in there. I mean,
loud as fuck.
right? Exactly. You don't want to get there and be trying
Or
to set it
like
up and
out west,
kick
there
it
could
out.
be a rattlesnake.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Trust me, we ran into a couple guys that had that. They set
Yep.
it up in the dark, and they get all set up, and they're sitting there, and they hear. They said they frickin' both. They went up through the roof, pretty much. I mean,
Well, that's pretty much the worst thing to do.
Yep.
You should stay still and spot it before
Right,
you move,
right.
or you're gonna get tagged.
yep. But so yeah, that's one big thing is being able to get set up ahead of time, and my chairs are level, and I leave my blind, my chairs, my decoys, all that stuff in there.
Yep.
I mean ahead of time, and if it's close enough to home, and I know, I say I
It's a
know
lot
I can
easier
get
to
in there.
slip through the woods, not carrying all that shit.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
you.
And I'll
Yep.
even leave, like when I'm filming, I'll even leave my tripod in there. I mean, that's just less weight I got to carry.
Yep.
It's less stuff I got to deal with in the
Sure.
morning. I know it's set and ready to go.
right.
I mean, yeah, public land would be a lot more difficult to do that, though.
Right.
But if I'm hunting public land, aside from like out west, where
Yep.
there isn't any other really hunting pressure for where we're at, if I'm hunting public land around here, a lot of times I'm not bringing a blind.
right.
I mean, I think those birds, they do on public land, heavily pressured ground, they do get blind shy. And that's a big reason on public ground. If I shoot a bird and and they say he flops off 30 yards and is dead, if there's other birds around, I just sit and wait. Even if it's an hour or 2 hours, I'll just kick back, relax, and let them go. Because if they see people getting in and out of a blind, they do kind of get smart to it.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Habituated
they
to it,
they
yeah.
do get a little blind shy. And on public land, I think that's another thing. And if you can get away with hunting without a blind, even if you're archery tackle,
Yep.
I think you're better off on public land that way.
And are you calling a lot then? So okay, here we are, opening morning, Minnesota.
Ooh.
You've done this work. You're sitting in the blind. Sun's coming up.
I will do a little bit of calling just to let them know that I'm there.
Right.
But otherwise, for the most part, opening morning, I've watched these birds do the same thing for the last week. I'm betting that they're going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to let them do their thing. If they're coming out to this field edge in the same corner every day for the last week, odds are they're going to do it again at least one more day.
Right.
So to me, that's kind of what I do. I do a little bit of calling. If it's a big group of birds, and that's the other thing. I don't use decoys early in the season.
Well,
like
Minnesota out west are different because out west you can start hunting them third week of March.
Right.
Okay.
So
we'll stick to Minnesota.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I know. So Minnesota, yeah, the birds are. If there's not so many, they're broken up a little bit.
I guess I have a very different circumstance on one of the pieces of ground I hunt than most people do because it's actually inside our metro zone, and so that it's a small 200 and some acre piece of ground, which is the biggest piece of ground that I have permission to hunt in Minnesota. And it used to be a sod farm. Now the guy plants corn and soybeans, and it's surrounded by housing developments. So in the winter, he's got planted pines, so he's got thermal cover, and there are anywhere from 150 to 200 birds there, all the way up until like the second or third week of the season. So in that aspect, I'm hunting them kind of like we do out west when they're really flocked up. So I don't use decoys. If I'm hunting a small group of birds, say there's 10 or 15 birds and there's 1 or 2 toms in them, then yeah, I'll throw out like a Jake and a hen. But otherwise, for the most part, like on that particular piece of ground, I don't use decoys hardly at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no need.
Well, and to get back to the calling thing, I think a lot of people, the anticipation of opening turkey morning, they've been practicing their turkey call for a whole 4 days ahead. Dying turkey noises. They're excited. Everyone in the house is mad at them. The dog, is hiding under the kitchen table at this point.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get hung up on the fact is that when they start calling, a lot of times you'll get that reactionary gobble. And so they'll be like, oh, perfect.
Right.
Cool, it just instantaneous. That's not how you want to be doing it when it's still dark out. You got to think of like what a hen's going to sound like in the early morning. She's going to be tired. She's going to be waking up. She's not going to be, highballing it right away, ready to, trying to get back the group of birds back together.
So you get some really light yelps on the tree, and they don't really start getting going until it's been. They've been up, and if you're close, and we've been close.
Yeah, we've been.
I mean, I've been 25 yards sitting under a tree looking at birds, and they're getting up. You hear some real faint yelps for probably 25 minutes before they actually start going, and they don't really get going good until they've hit the ground. Usually.
Yeah.
The toms will be gobbling and stuff,
Sure.
but the hens, it's real light chatter until they get down on the ground, usually, from my experience.
Yeah, usually for me, if it's like I'll just throw out one simple, soft call. And if I get a gobble off that, I put the call down until the sun is above the horizon at that point.
Are you doing mouth call, slates, box?
Well, it's whatever you're confident with. Right. I'm really good. I have a pretty good yelp with a mouth call, and I'm pretty good on a slate. Box calling, that's something I'm still picking up and getting good at, but for around Minnesota, unless it's a super high windy day, I don't think you necessarily need a box call.
And that's kind of a general consensus from a lot of guys that I know that are really big into the turkey hunting is that the only time you break out, me included, a box call is when you're trying to cut that wind. You're really trying to get
loud.
Yep. Otherwise, I like a soft, quiet call. I don't need to be sounding like the hen on crack.
Yeah. And I'm covered this. I'm by no means an expert on this, but I'll tell you one thing I have learned when raising chickens is I've kind of picked up the lingo a little bit, like when they're feeding or when it's an aggressive thing, like that stereotypical, like the clucks, the toms do that. Mm-hmm. Like my tom did it all the time. In fact, when he was really aggressive, when he would come chase after me, come from behind, he was doing a.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Fighting purr.
Yep.
I mean, that's what he was doing. Yep.
He wants to tussle with you.
Yeah. And he thought he wanted to tussle.
I know.
Guess
well, and that's the thing. I mean,
Tulsa
You
was
got
just
your
gravy,
purrs
bitch.
and your clucks and your yelps and your cuts, and I mean, there's so many different things. Everybody think, oh, that stereotypical three burst or 5 burst yelp. I mean, yeah, how
Yeah.
many guys are doing that? I mean, I've sat in the woods before and on ground that there's other hunters close, and it's just like, oh my gosh! I think
they have it. They're going to use it.
Yep.
That's the thing. It's no different than duck or goose hunting. You got
Yep.
the guy that you're in a public marsh, and they just every bird you can
High
see,
ball
whether it's
all
a crow
day.
or it's a cormorant, it doesn't matter. There's a bird. Just
exactly.
All day
non-stop.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Well, and there are birds that you just can't overcall to them.
Right.
There are birds that'll respond to it, but there are other birds that if you're just hammering at them,
There's
they
no
don't.
equation. There's no
No.
perfect equation. Like if
No.
I do this, if I do A and B, it'll equal C every time. So it's going to come down to, and again, I'm kind of speaking for you because I'm not a turkey hunter, but what I'm gathering from this is like it's no different than fishing. It's no different than bird hunting. It's no different than deer hunting. Like you have to, while you're executing your plan, you have to pay attention to the animals themselves and change your tactics if you have, depending on
Yep.
how they react to what you're doing. Do
just
they
like
want
bass
more
fishing.
calling? Do they want no calling? Right. Do I need to reel faster?
gotta
Do
let
I
the-
just let it sit there?
Let them tell you what you want. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
how
have
are they
to
responding?
Pay attention. You have to pay attention to what they're
You
doing.
got to be able to
their
read the
body
body language of the birds too.
Yep.
I mean, fishing is different, obviously, because you can't see the fish all the time. Sometimes you can
Your
sight fish 'em.
electronics.
But well, right. But it's not like seeing a deer, how they react to when you grunt at them or rattle at them, or where a turkey, you can see how they're reacting when you're calling to them. If they're reacting positively to what you're doing, continue to do it. If they're not, you got to change it.
Yeah.
And I've found more often than not, calling to them, just going hard and whatever, more often than not, gets a negative reaction
Yep.
to me.
Well, and also with that, it takes one little hiccup or screw up with whatever call you're using, and all of a sudden that bird is ready to go, and all of a sudden, boom, light switch.
Yeah.
That
Well,
bird's
you're speaking their language.
Yep.
Right.
And you're not fluent in it.
Right.
So-
Well, exactly. And that's why you got to use, like you said, calls you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable using a slate call,
Yep.
not all day, every day, you feel good. You can make good noises out of it. You're not getting a high-pitched squeak once in a while, whatever.
Mhm.
And you're kind of okay on a diaphragm. I mean, yeah, use your diaphragm if you really want to. But to me, if I'm not good at it, and I know that,
Mhm.
I'm not really good at it, I'm going to save it till I really
and
feel like I get good at it.
Maybe I'm wrong here, but they're tools in a toolbox. So, like, I guess the two examples I'm thinking of in mind is like you got your mouth call, where you could do your standard, whatever.
Mhm.
But like that purr thing is a little tougher to do on a mouth call, but
It takes
on
time.
a slate.
Yep.
On a slate,
It's easy.
yeah, it's like
in
you
my
drag that thing
opinion.
around there. It's like
Yep.
you can
Yep.
get that purr a little easier on a slate. So it's like you should probably have both.
Yep.
And practice that
I
both.
I do because I prefer the mouth call, especially with running and gunning, or if I'm on the move or trying to locate birds. That's my go-to. It's one less thing I gotta try
I
to
think
dig
I'm
up.
just gonna go out with my face when I do it. I mean, listening to them, I've gotten decent at mimicking them with just my mouth. I'm like,
I do it. I
why
do.
the hell not?
Well, we
I
do
mean,
that even with locator calls. I mean, Jason's
Oh,
got one heck of a owl call. I mean, I know you can't imagine it. Yeah, but he can. Yep, he's got one. I mean, I have a pretty good yelp from a turkey, and it works. I mean,
Yeah.
I've stopped numerous birds in a decoy spread without even having a call in my mouth or a call in my hand.
And I'll do the same thing.
Or I
Yep.
can stop a buck with the meh. with
Yep,
the
it's
best
the
of
same.
'em.
It's
Yeah.
right there. Meh,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
So I
I've
think a
been
deer never makes that sound, but every hunter in the woods
Right.
does the meh.
Yep. Exactly. And I've done the same thing with turkeys, trying to get them
Yep.
to stop. Well, look at the time I shot that turkey out in South Dakota. That bird was about to go behind a frickin' cedar tree, and I frickin' just yelped at him. And he stopped just long enough I could get settled in on him and shoot him. Well, that was a turkey I shot at 75 yards.
Yeah, because he was like, nope, I'm gone.
Nobody,
And,
I tell people, like, oh, like, no way you shot that far. Well,
I
Kevin
was
was
there.
with me. He
Call
seen
me.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I'll
and
verify
it
it.
was
Witnesses.
it was definitely, it's not something I would do every time, but it was
No.
something where I'm confident and proficient with the bow. I shot enough at the time. I don't shoot as much as I should now, but I wouldn't take that shot now.
Right, no.
I mean, then I shot a ton. I mean, I felt really good. And
the,
I
the thing I think you probably had going for you is that it was a snap decision. You had the quick. You didn't have time to think about it.
Yep.
My best shots are always that way.
Yep.
Always that way. If I have time to think about it, the more time I have to think about it, the greater my chance of fucking this up is.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause now I'm overthinking things. I'm like, my bubble's not lined up, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm not this. Now you're not even looking at the turkey anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you're not paying attention.
Oh, where did he go?
Right. He moved in 10 yards, and now you're not even on the right pin.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
It's
Well,
the
it plagues
worst.
shotgun guys too. You know,
Exactly.
Same thing.
I mean,
when you just shoot instinctively,
pick
way
the gun
better.
up and pull the trigger.
Well, look what happened to Ryan.
Point and shoot.
Yep.
Man, point
Yep.
and shoot.
We
We
had a couple birds come in. Watched them come off the roost. I called them in. They came in just beautiful.
Great video, by the way.
It's
awesome video.
Incredible video.
Yeah.
It'd been really cool if there was a kill shot in it. But
Right.
since there's no kill shot, nobody will ever see it.
Good B-roll.
But it's
Great
beautiful
B-roll.
footage. Birds come in, and he just boom. And I'm like, nothing happened. Boom, 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 boom. Unloaded his gun. I'm like, what happened? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, did you not get your head down? He's like, oh, no, I didn't.
Nope.
He never put his head down on the stock, so he shot over every one of them.
That happens to me waterfowl hunting all the time when I get too excited because I like looking at the birds.
Right. Oh, look at they're cupped up.
Yeah,
they're
I'm
coming
like,
in. This is looking great.
I'm like, how did I miss that? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, my head wasn't down. I mean, really, when you're taking that shot, you shouldn't be able to see the bird. You should be so pinned to that stock.
Yep.
And you're looking down, like, blot that thing out. You don't want to be able to see it. If you can see it, you probably don't have your head all the way down.
Yep.
But then going back to, so there's your Minnesota. Give your Minnesota wrap-up. So you've scouted them. You've made your play. You sat there, maybe some light calling. And, they do the thing. If it all works out, right?
Right.
You tagged out, right?
Yep.
Great. Perfect. So now let's switch to Nebraska. You're going to Nebraska. What's your, so obviously you can't just run out there and scout that after work. So
Right.
Take people through, what's your plan? You're planning before your very first hunt of the year, your scheduled hunt of the year. How are you preparing for this?
I think a lot of it is, at this point now, we've been doing it for enough years, but
Right.
in the beginning, say somebody wanted to go out and DIY it themselves the first time ever. What I did the first time we went out is I looked at a map and I looked at, okay, here's some blocks, here's some farms, here's some stuff that's got going, some feed possibilities, there's water.
That's
kind of same thing.
That's the big thing people don't overlook is so that you may see a big block of timber and you may see ag fields. You're like, there might be turkeys. No, you need to follow waterways. You need to follow little creeks, little rivers.
The big thing out there is, there's not water everywhere like there is here. There's not little ponds everywhere. They have to have water.
It's semi-arid out there. That's not.
Yeah, especially where we go. We're out west
Yeah,
of
you're west.
we're way west. And
Nebraska.
where we go to South Dakota is even further west. It's like we're between the Missouri River and the Badlands. There's nothing.
Yeah, when you get along that Missouri River, it's not the pothole region of the Dakotas.
No.
There's not. It's dry.
Yes.
It's not desert.
Right.
That's what it's semi-arid.
But they'll go sometimes in the summer, 10, 12 weeks with no moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's not water everywhere. So we, like you said, we do target a lot of areas that have water. And if I'm looking at a map at a new place to look, first thing I'm looking for is for a creek. If there's not a creek, I'm kind of crossing it off until I find other areas that have creeks. And then I'll maybe keep them in the back of my mind. If we're not finding them here, maybe we'll go look at it. But a lot of times I'm looking for a creek of some sort.
Well, and you can look at a map too. Like the one spot, there's an artesian well.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to keep in mind is that let's say you're looking and you're like, there's no creeks, there's no nothing, but maybe you see some pasture land. All of a sudden it's like, why is this big block of timber?
Or stock tank.
Right. Yep. A stock tank. Maybe there's some sort of water supplied somewhere. Them birds will thrive in that area, especially if it's in a big area where there's not a lot of water near it.
Look for the windmills.
Yep. Look for the windmills.
Yep.
So
that's a big thing that we did is we'll scout on the map.
Yep.
Then when we go out there, usually we afford ourselves, in the beginning we gave ourselves a little more time. Now we'll go out and just run for a weekend, but we kind of know the area already.
Right.
Before we'd go out for 5-6 days.
Yep.
And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't take 5 or 6 days. Well, then take whatever time you can.
Mm-hmm.
But we gave ourselves a little bit of time, and we basically knew going in And whatever we do for the first time, we basically say, all right, well, we're buying tags, and they're probably going to go unfilled. If we get one, great. If not, well, we're learning, and we're learning the area. And that's kind of the mindset you have to go into it. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm buying this tag. I got to get a turkey or I got to get a deer. It's like
it's kind of a new hunter thing.
Right.
And so my friend Orlando, he's just, he lives in California. He's just getting into hunting, and then, he's been on this podcast. He's from Campfire Evolution, and I've been kind of talking with him, and he has that mindset, and I'm kind of trying to coach him out of it. I'm like, I get it, because you're all fired up about this, but you're too worried about eating tag soup.
Right. I can't. You know how many
tag
tags
soup,
I've
my
eaten.
goodness.
Tag soup is just part of the deal, man.
Yep.
I bet I've spent almost $10,000 in tags I've not filled over the years.
Yeah.
Well, look at how many I went out to South Dakota, the first 2 years, didn't fill my tag.
The first 2 years, turkey hunting.
Yeah, turkey hunting.
Not even talking about deer hunting, but turkey hunting.
Turkey hunting, I went the first 2 years.
And that's $100 every time.
Yep. Plus
for
fuel
sure.
and staying and driving and
Not to get like super flowery, but the thing that as a new hunter, that's what you're all about. Like you equate the success with punching that tag.
yeah.
And then as you gain the experience, you realize it's not about punching the tag.
Right.
It's about the experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let it out, Dale.
But it really is, though.
It is.
But I mean,
Right.
it is.
And it is.
But you understand, it's like you are following your passion.
Yep.
And yes, the ultimate goal is to punch that tag and to bring that animal home and to eat that animal and to enjoy it from start to finish. But along the way, if you don't punch your tag, it's the picking up all the other stuff. It's being out there. It's the pursuit of the animal.
You're
it's
learning
the
how they
non-game
use
animals.
the train.
You have this voyeuristic aspect of being in the woods and watching nature unfold as that sun comes up and the wood's starting to wake up and the prairie comes awake or the swamp comes awake or whatever it is.
I could feel it.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, it just said, ooh.
I want to go
The thing
now.
is, like, we have, as hunters and as fishermen and people in the outdoors, and you're going to get this if you're a hiker or you're a camper, you're going to experience this to some level. But these people that, they live in the concrete jungle, and whether they're animal rights activists, and, just go to the extreme, like, that don't think you should hunt this thing, why do you have to kill this animal and this, that, and the other thing was like, well, you don't have the perspective that we have. Like, have you ever actually experienced how nature works?
Right.
Like, have you ever immersed yourself in it? But yet you're going to tell me that you know how it should and shouldn't be. Like,
Right.
no, I'm sorry. Your opinion means absolutely dick to me because I know you don't. I know you don't. I do.
Right.
I live it. I'm
Right.
in it. Like, I see.
Well,
I know.
and, maybe
better
we're
than
on
you how
one side
nature
of
works.
on the opposite
Oh,
extreme.
sure. Of course we are.
But to me, I can't even fathom the idea of not going hunting during deer season or during turkey season.
It doesn't matter what the
no.
season. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter
And it's
what
not
the
that
season.
it's not that I'm thinking, oh my God, I got this absolute need to kill an animal. It's not it. I have the absolute need to experience the outdoors.
You're immersing yourself
And
into that world.
I
being a
love
part of that world.
there's nothing that I live for more. I mean, other than my kids or whatever. But there's nothing more.
Let it go, Dale. Just let it go.
Let it go. Let it go.
And there it is.
Oh, I can't hear that song.
I
too
know.
much.
Poor Jason. Oh, yeah.
You got young girls. You've heard that song a few times.
Yeah, a few thousand. But I mean, just the morning, the sun coming up, and the animals getting up and moving around, and I mean, just think about how it is. I mean, you could be out at the beginning of the season, and it's like a whole new. Every year is brand new to you because it's all different. Everything changes every year. But I can sit there and think about the times that when I first started hunting, and I kind of maybe got spoiled, but my very first morning bow hunting ever in my life, I got in the stand and it's cold. I mean, it was a chillier morning. I mean, it wasn't cold because it was in September, but it was chilly. My dad had brought me to, within 40 yards of the stand, and all right, go ahead. And I think I was 14 at the time when I first started bow hunting. I started deer hunting when I was 12, like everybody in Minnesota for the most part now. I was like 14 years old, and I walked the last 40 yards into my stand, and my dad had walked up to his stand, and I was sitting there, and I remember it was like just the very maybe first minutes of legal shooting night. And here come a couple of does, like a doe and two fawns or whatever, come walking down the trail, and they walk down the one trail that brings them to like 12 yards. And I ended up getting my bow, and I stand up and I turn, and they bust me, and the doe blows and takes off, and it's like my heart was racing and pounding so hard. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's like I'll never
Good job.
I'll
Learn
never
better
forget
than
that ever, I mean, that was an experience. Yeah, I didn't kill anything. But that experience of that first morning, seeing those deer coming in and everything, I'd never had a deer at 12 yards before. I mean, it was insane. It was like hard to even fathom. And I was like, that was the coolest thing ever.
See, I'm different than most. I got into hunting way late. Nobody in my family hunted. And this is just something I always wanted to do, and I just finally started doing it. And I kind of got into bow hunting, a little bit early on, but I had actual zero success. Like, as a senior in high school and a little bit after, and then just got out of it just because of life. Didn't do it for forever. It wasn't till probably, oh my God, the first deer I killed with the bow was probably 10 years ago, maybe a little more, 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'll never forget it. I mean, I let that arrow fly, and it hit that deer. I mean, the sound took me by surprise. Like, hit her right in the furnace. It sounded like somebody slamming a car door. It was
if you never heard it before.
I mean, I was like, holy crap. Like, and yeah, it ran like 20, 30 yards. I heard it pile up, and that was that. And I was shaking. I mean, I just, the adrenaline rush was unbelievable. And I knew right then and there, I'm like, this is the first day of the rest of my life right here. That was the coolest thing.
I don't even know. I don't think you even had ever turkey hunted before.
No.
We went turkey hunting.
So
I this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
South Dakota was his first turkey hunt ever.
Yeah, I didn't even know what wild turkeys were. Like, I'm at that level. I'm like, oh, there's big blobs in the field. That's whatever. Never even looked.
Like birdies.
Yeah, right.
Well, I had a buddy of mine that I had been out there with I'd only been out there 1 year before, so I was pretty green to hunting out there. I'd hunted Minnesota. I'd hunted out there 1 year before, and it was insanely good. It was the spring of 2012. We killed 4 birds with our bows in 3 days. It was awesome.
Wow.
But then that following
Right.
that summer they had
off.
a big drought, and they lost a lot of birds. So then when me and him went back out, we had a hard time finding birds.
Yep.
I mean, we ground it out to get the birds we got.
Yep.
But I had my buddy's like, I can't go this year. I'm like, shit, I need to find somebody else to go. And I'm like, hey, Kevin, you ever turkey hunting? No. I said, well, do you want to go turkey hunting in South Dakota? He's like, well, I guess, sure.
Yeah. I got a problem saying no.
Well, Kevin's one of those
Really?
guys.
Give me $100.
No.
Wow, that came pretty easy. Kind of calling bullshit.
Well, and that's kind of the same thing that happened with ice fishing.
Yeah,
He'd never ice fished before. I'm like, hey, let's go ice fishing. So we went up to Mille Lacs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He caught his first.
Live in Minnesota? Do you have an
I did, but I was never shown the real tactical or methodical way of doing it.
Sure.
It's
drill a hole, sit on a bucket?
Right, and not okay, so this is a map, and this is what we're trying to do, and this is the reason why this works and this don't.
I think your first time ever was your first time ever ice fishing on Mille Lacs.
Yeah.
On Mille Lacs.
That's a brutal spot to start.
On the mud
bro.
flats.
I like an adventure. I'm down for.
We went out to the mud flats.
Yep.
First day, he caught a 24 or 24.5 inch walleye, and that was it. It was
Yep.
done.
Well, it's Mille Lacs, so.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
But that was when.
So, I mean, it's not like that cool of a thing, but it is a cool
It's
thing.
only 100 million 24-inch walleyes.
Yeah.
So what do you?
But I don't mean to make light of it. A 24-inch walleye is a nice fish.
Right.
I mean, it really is.
But
It's a nice
anyways,
fish.
I mean, he was jacked about it. He never even caught a
That's
walleye before. I don't
those
think.
are the fighters.
Right.
To be honest with you,
Yep.
if I were to pick and choose, I would say 23 to 25. That's what I want to catch for the sport of it.
Right.
That the little ones, they're generally outmatched by your tackle, and then you catch a 28, and there's weight there. You're gonna get one good run out of it, and they're like, okay, I quit.
Yeah. So that pretty much right there, that fish, I think, is what really hooked you on ice fishing. I mean, in reality, because after that, it was over. that year we bought a fish house together because neither of us could afford to buy one by ourselves. So we split one. We both bought ice augers. He went and bought a flasher because he was borrowing one of mine.
Yep.
I mean, he bought everything for fishing. A custom rod.
Yep.
I mean, you name it.
See the money go.
Yeah.
Making it rain.
Yeah. And so that was kind of the end of it. But to get back to it, we went out to South Dakota.
Yep.
I mean, it was the first time you had been out there. And it was really different than what I had been out there before.
We drove around a lot.
But I kind of same thing. I told him, you got to have the mentality. I can't guarantee you're going to get a bird. I said, I can't even guarantee we're going to get a shot at a bird.
Or even
said,
see one.
all we're going to go is we're going to go out and we're going to try and we're going to have fun. And if we get one, great. If we don't, well, then whatever. We donated our money to the state.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of how I got to look at it. Yeah, okay, we might get one, we might not.
I don't even think of it as donating it. Like here, and going back to what we were talking about, like eating the tag soup. Like I don't even really think of it. I mean, I know that money's going back into the resource, which is great.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it like when you go to a bar, right, and you know you're going to drop however much money, you're not like, great, I spent $60 in the bar and I didn't even get laid. Like I didn't even pull a broad out of here. Like I didn't like you don't. It's a different thing. Like you know what I don't even know what I'm really trying to say or how to articulate it. But it's like the hunting thing or the fishing thing. It's like I've wasted.
You're paying for the experience.
I didn't get the thing. I wasted my money. No, this is your ticket to admission.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Basically, it's the price of admission.
You're getting into the park.
Yep.
Like, don't think of it like if you don't punch your tag, it wasn't a loss. Like,
right. Well, and it's not. I mean,
doing something, especially now that hunting numbers are dwindling.
Yep.
It's like you are experiencing something that a very small percentage of the population is experiencing.
Well,
right.
I tell guys, I said, I truly don't believe you've lived until you've experienced a spring morning in the turkey woods.
Yeah.
It is something.
Well,
it is absolutely something.
You remember that very first time that we went out there, and
Yeah.
you and I were sitting down on the river in what we now fondly call the kill box,
Right, yeah.
Because there's turkeys. Every spring they roost in the same tree.
Yep.
And they fly down the same spot, and you pretty much, if you hunt that a morning and an evening, you're going to kill a bird.
Right, or get a
Just
shot at one.
At least have an opportunity. Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
Have an
Well,
opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity.
The rest is up to you.
Right.
The birds will
It's
do
been
their,
up to him a few times.
Yeah.
the birds are going to do their part. You're
Yeah.
going to have to do yours.
So anyways, we go down there, and I remember it very, very well because it was a cool, crisp morning,
Yep.
and it was calm.
Yep. No wind.
No wind.
I
And you
remember
could
it.
hear birds for probably 2 miles in each
Yep.
direction. And they're gobbling, and you can hear one way off will gobble. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You need a
Oh
minute?
my
You need a
goodness! But
minute?
that just gets me going.
You'll hear
man.
one
I tell you
gobble
what,
way
that
off,
just gets
and
me
it'll
going.
get the next group on the
Yep.
next group's tree, and it just like rain comes cycling down
Dominoes.
past you. Then the birds in front of you gobble. Then the next group, and the next group, and the next. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
if that doesn't get you. I'm not like a huge turkey hunter, but just you describing them, like that would be awesome.
Well,
like,
especially-
I can picture him. Like if I was in the blind and heard that, I'd be
Yep.
like,
Well, especially like you hear them far off ones and you get them ones that are real close. It's like that gobble resonates in your chest. Like if you ever go to like Top Fuel,
loud.
it's loud. It's like Top Fuel racing. You know when you feel the vibration of the motors rattling through your chest. When you get that gobbler that's close to you and he does it, it touches your soul. Like
yeah.
that touches
You're
it.
going back to my yard turkeys, though. There's something I didn't realize because I'm not a turkey
Why'd
hunter.
you kill
and
him? You love him.
and
It
I'm-
sounds
Right.
like you loved him.
Oh no, I don't love them. I love to eat them.
Right.
The first time I had a pair of tom turkeys, they're like, "Oh, that's awesome. What did you name them?" I'm like, Thanksgiving and Christmas." Like, let's not
What
sugar,
else is there to name?
let's not sugarcoat this. There's a purpose for these. But and I'm sure you guys have experienced this because you are turkey hunters and you've probably had a turkey close that's gobbled. But when they gobble, you hear the that's what everybody thinks is your stereotypical gobble. But there's a lot more going on in that gobble. There is this deep, hollow drum sound that you don't.
Oh yeah.
And it's like that spit afterwards. Even when a turkey goes to strut, and it's almost like they're fluffing their feathers out, and then you'll see them. If you ever watch one, if somebody's ever watched a video of a turkey strutting, and I'm kind of trying to explain it to people that
May not
aren't
know.
turkey huntings.
Right.
They've seen a video.
The drumming and
Yeah,
spitting.
so they start to fluff out, and their wings are down. The tail feathers comes up, and it's like right before they're full. there's a little.
Yep.
There's that tiny little.
Yep. Yeah. That. It's like
It's
Yeah.
nearly inaudible.
it is.
If
Well,
you're
and the thing
close
is
enough.
if you're sitting, I've been sitting in the
Oh,
line, I
yeah,
know
me
you
too.
have,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're sitting there, and it's been like an hour, and we've been calling here and there, and
Got
haven't seen
decoys
nothing.
out in front. You know.
And I've been
Nothing
sitting
going
there,
on.
and I just hear like that of the drum, and I'm
You're
like,
like,
What was
did
that?
you hear something?
I'm like, oh yeah.
He's like,
It's
oh,
on.
That's
I
it.
mean,
That's fun
Yep.
drumming.
He's
and
close.
the thing is, when you can hear that, they're close.
Yep.
I mean,
and they're
close.
fired up. I mean,
Oh,
they're full strutting because
Yep.
and for somebody again going back to somebody who might not be familiar, if you watch a bird, you can watch with the sound off and you know they do it because they flinch.
Yep.
When they make that sound,
Yep.
you'll see them
Yep.
just a light, their whole body light flinch, and that's when they're full. That's
Yep.
like
They're
the tail
committed.
will never be more fanned.
Yep.
Yep.
Their wings will never be more straight down, tips dragging the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
They are at full strut at.
Yep.
Like, it's just a weird
Yep.
and it's almost like it's so inaudible and you can feel it like it's such a low frequency that you feel it more than you hear it. It's crazy.
We've been out in South Dakota. We've had them. Remember that time we stalked on them birds, got away around on them? Not
Never
the one
got-
you shot, the one I ended up shooting.
Yep.
But we couldn't see them. We
Yep.
could see a hen, and they knew the toms were behind this brush. You could never see them for the longest time, but you could just hear them. That's how you knew they were there. You could just hear that drum. They weren't gobbling. They were just spitting and drumming.
Yep.
It's like, they're there. We just got to wait for
Yep.
them, you know?
They're coming. Where are they?
That's exciting. That anticipation. That's just like
And
everything.
especially if you don't know what it sounds like, and then you get to experience when you actually get to go back and you get to hunt at home or other places. That's the crack. Like that right there. I mean, the gobble's awesome.
Y'all got any more of them?
Yeah,
Strutters.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the crack. That'll get
Yep.
you going. I mean,
So, but to go back to hunting in South Dakota, I mean, you got to, or Nebraska, even out west, we do kind of do it similar to how we do it here as far as, I mean, we scout. So we're scouting on a map, but we can't go check it until we're out there. So we usually allow ourselves a day or two. If we're going to a new place, but we figure, hey, we're probably not going to hunt. We're just going to be driving and checking spots and looking for birds and trying to get one to sound off and maybe looking for sign.
yep.
As soon as we find some, it depends on where it's at. I mean, if there is an area that is suitable to set up and we think we can get close, if we got them roosted, we'll maybe go try and set up in the morning in a blind close. And if, a lot of times it doesn't work out, though. It's just like out there, they don't do the same thing every day. I mean, they
No.
may end up at the same final destination. Say they're going to a destination like a field or, say, a feed lot, whatever out there, there's some residual feed that they're going to eat out of the farmer's place, whatever. They may end up there eventually, some point throughout the day, but it's never at the same time or really even close.
No.
And a lot of time they don't take the same way to get there 2 days in a row.
Are you stalking them then?
A lot of times we
Yep.
we may hunt the morning close to the roost. If it doesn't work, we're
Yep.
just glassing and we're going to get around on them. Like the last
Yeah.
time we were in South Dakota, this was like 3 years ago because we
Yep.
haven't been to South Dakota in a while.
Yep.
Both our birds were killed by stalking them.
Yep.
And so like when you're stalking them, you're reading the terrain. You're getting an idea of what direction they're going, trying to figure out
Yep.
where they're trying to get to, and you're cutting them off at the pass.
Yep.
Exactly.
So it's-
That's fun.
It's not
It
like
is. It's exhilarating.
So,
Yep.
but I mean, I try to keep this basic when we're describing things to people that might not know. I've always tried to keep that in the back of my mind. So, it's not a lot like a deer hunting spot and stalking. You might be still hunting, and you see them the whole time, and when they're not paying attention, you take a couple steps and you're moving in on them. This isn't really like that, where you're really just trying to cut them off at the pass, and you're going to sit and wait for them to come
Yep.
into your
Well,
sight picture, if you will.
And a lot of
Right.
time, yeah, we'll maybe make a big end around and get in front of them if there's enough terrain feature. Like, for instance, the place that we were at before,
Yep.
we knew where they were at. They were working down kind of a fence line, and we knew that it was kind of tall, like canary grass area that was a little lower and had some taller grass. So we just used a little like irrigation ditch to get as close as we could. Then we popped up and we belly crawled probably 150 yards
Yeah.
until we got to a place where we could hear them. We couldn't see them, but we knew they were close. But we didn't dare push any further because we were kind of running out of cover.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, this is as good as we're gonna get.
This is the Alamo at this point. I
Pretty
think-
much. And they walked basically right down the pipe, and I smoked one.
Yep.
And then the next day, we birds did a similar thing that they normally do. They didn't go the same direction. So we ended up having to get around on them. And that time,
That bird never gobbled.
that bird never did gobble all day.
Nope.
And we just happened to be, we were actually leaving
Yeah,
to go to another area, and I glanced over, I'm like, dude, look, there's turkey right there.
Yep.
So we ended up getting around on them. But they weren't moving. They were in the same spot. They were just sitting there.
Yep.
That's got to be tough.
And so we got
yeah.
around on them, and we ended up belly crawling in grass that was maybe 1.5 foot high.
Yep.
And just belly crawling a little bit. And one would pick its head up and kind of look around and put its head down and start preening, and we'd shimmy
little
up
more.
a little bit.
That's
Yep.
brutal.
Yep.
But we ended up-
commando.
That's an
Yep.
exercise in patience
Yeah,
right there.
Yep.
we got within, 40 yards?
Yep.
And so we could see 3 of them down in this little spot, and we could hear the tom drumming.
Yep.
And finally he walked into this spot where when he'd fan out, you could see the very tips of his fan, and then he'd stop, drop his fan, and just pop his head up over it. Like, you could just see his head. None of his
Yep.
neck, just
Nothing
his head.
more.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, there's his head right there. Kevin's looking. I'm like, okay, just watch. You'll see his fan come up, and then his head will pop up. He's, oh, yeah, I see. I said, next time that fan goes down, you better have your head on your gun, and you blast him in his
As soon as that head pops
soon as
up.
that head pops up. And sure enough, that thing popped up, and boom, and
Bam.
he hammered him.
Yep.
And but yeah, that was awesome. I
Head all-
love
was
doing
the
it.
head
that
all
way.
white.
No.
It was pretty red, actually.
Yep.
His head was pretty red.
Yeah, that's
another thing too. A lot of people might not know about
Yep.
turkeys if you're not a turkey hunter. It's like their head color changes so much, and when they're really fired up, it's white.
Yep.
Right.
It dictates a lot their
It's
temperament.
white. Like
Yep.
I don't know. Like the blood must just leave their head. Or something.
It is, and it's not like a pale, like white skin color.
No,
It's like
no.
paper white.
It's white.
Yeah, yep.
And again, that's another thing I learned from my yard turkeys. Like I was like,
Mhm.
I
Yep.
never knew that. And when they're full fired up, I'm like, dude, where's the color in your head? Like it's usually blue and red and whatever.
Yep.
Like your head is white right now.
Yep.
Like this is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's another thing too, especially if you're trying to play a spot and stock game and you call, and he is kind of walking, he gets into a strut, and his head starts to turn that shade of white. You're like, okay, if I got decoys with me, I can
Got
make that.
him. He's
I can
fired
make.
up.
I can make that
Yeah.
bird work. Now, how do I get my decoys and myself in a position where he doesn't see me getting into that?
I was going to ask you about that too. I was going to ask you like, so you're doing the spot and stock thing, when you try to get around them, is there at a time where maybe they change direction, or is there any time where calling comes into play when you're doing a spot and stock, or you pretty much are just leave the calls alone and you're
We put them down.
cutting them off?
I guess
Yeah.
for that, I don't want them to change
To know
what they're
where you're
already
at.
doing.
Yep.
Or
Well,
even,
that
even look your direction.
Right.
exactly that too,
Yep.
and they're already in that mindset of going in that direction and going where we at that point want them to go, because now we know where they're kind of headed,
Sure.
and we're going to get in front of them. I don't want to do anything that is going to change that. Now, not necessarily turkey calls, but I have used a crow call when we're doing that, just to verify, hey, we're coming up this
You
bottom.
can't see him.
Yep.
I can't see him.
Where
and
did
I'm
he
like,
go?
hey, I'm going to hit that crow call and try and get him to gobble. If he gobbles, I'm going to know, hey, we got another 50 yards we got to cover now. So I've done that.
Run. We've ran.
Sprint.
We have
Oh,
sprinted.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sprinted.
run, crawl, you name it.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to enter in the whole X Factor reaping. Have you guys done that?
We've tried.
We have tried. We
Yep.
haven't had any success with it
No.
yet, but we have come close.
Yep.
Right, so reaping, for those that
Don't know.
might not know, is a technique of turkey hunting where you use a decoy or a cutout,
Yep.
and you see the turkey off in the distance.
Mhm.
You hide behind this decoy or a cutout of a turkey, and you just
Go to 'em.
you pretend you're a turkey.
And
Yep.
you belly
And
crawl.
you hide behind
Yep.
that thing, and you belly crawl or crouch or however you
Yep.
just close the distance. And sometimes they run up to you. In a perfect
Right.
world, they're going to
Right.
spot you and challenge you, and then so you don't have to move. You can just sit there and wait. But I've seen a few videos of that. That looks fun.
Oh,
It-
it is.
That
We
looks
haven't
like
killed
a
anything
lot
doing
of
that,
fun.
but God, it'd be fun.
We've been close. I mean,
Yeah.
and before that got kind of big and popular, I mean, when it first came out, we're like, that's really interesting. And we actually started integrating bringing a fan with us everywhere we go, because when you're starting to get into that hill country, if you got to peek over that ridge or something like that,
That's a
use
good
that,
call.
use
Yeah,
that,
look
use,
through the fan.
yep, use that fan, because you'd be surprised how many times we'd walk up onto the crest of a hill and there's birds.
They spot you. Going back
Boom.
to pick up on movement.
Right.
Really
Yep,
fucking
they're
good.
right there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So
That's
Yep.
actually a-
we were
hot
doing
tip.
that
Yep,
probably
that's a-
before the reaping really hit the general public. we had kind of started doing that.
Yep.
We never really tried to go after them in a field like that.
Right.
But we had been using a decoy or a fan
Try to block us.
to block us when we're trying to make our approach on them when we're stalking them.
Yep.
But, I mean, that's, and like I think I told you on the phone, we kind of have an unorthodox manner of how we hunt. It's not the stereotypical where we're setting up and we're calling to them.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times, I bet I could count on one hand the amount of turkeys I've killed actually in a decoy spread.
Right.
In
I've
Nebraska
killed
or Minnesota?
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
really?
Yep.
I mean, I've killed some coming in. I mean, most of the time in Minnesota, I very rarely even actually use a decoy once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times I don't use a decoy. Out there, we use decoys, but I don't feel that the birds out there react to the calling as well as like an Eastern does.
Right.
I don't know if they're as callable.
Well, and I think, well, it really depends because I've had luck doing decoys out west. I mean, if I'm bringing somebody new that may not be in mountain goat shape like myself where they can run and gun, but then using the decoys, your tactic is slightly a little bit different because out there it's visibility.
But that goes back to the lack of pressure that's out there.
Yep, that's how that
I mean,
works.
here there's a hunter on every
Yeah.
20-acre
that's-
piece of
well,
ground.
I mean, just your geographic location to the Twin Cities metro area.
Yep.
There's 800,000, like I think it is 800,000
Yeah.
people. I mean,
There's a lot.
between-
So there's a
that's
lot
just
of people that
Minneapolis,
are
St.
turkey
Paul,
hunting.
I think. I mean, the greater area is like 1.3 or something like that. So, again, right here I have this. It's a very large wildlife management area, Carlos Avery, but it's an hour drive,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
or not less, depending on what part of it. 'Cause it kind of runs
Right. Oh, it's
southwest and northeast, so it's a long kind of strip. It gets a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Well, right. And so that in that point, that's where the pressure starts. I mean, there's how many people that are just stereotypical, either go out with a blind or will sit against a tree, throw out their decoys and sit there and call. Well, if those turkeys have heard that 100 times over the last 3 weeks of the turkey season, then they're going to pretty much they're going to become call shy. They're going to become decoy shy. They're going to become blind shy.
Locator shy too. I've
Even
seen that.
Yeah. And so,
People, owl calls and crow calls, people use them all.
Just do different stuff. They'll
Yeah.
gobble to a door slamming.
Yep.
I mean, they'll gobble to
Or
anything.
or you wait until something else in nature, like a cow
Yeah,
mooing,
yeah.
boom, gobble. I don't even need to use
Yeah.
a locator call for that.
No,
so and
they'll-
that
they'll
and that's
gobble to they'll shock gobble to just about any loud noise.
That's
Yep.
one thing where we have had some luck with shooting birds and decoys out west. I've had some luck here, but more so out there because of the lack of pressure. However, I don't use decoys as much out there
Right.
because
They weigh you down.
we're usually not hunting them right off the roost.
Where does the transition between Eastern and Merriam's?
I think it's about
And do they mix?
They
Oh,
do.
yeah, they
there's
do.
Yep. There's some
And they're-
dirty.
and that's the thing,
where
dirty
the
birds.
line blurs. Oh,
Yeah.
they call them. They
Yeah,
call
well,
them
we
dirty birds?
call them dirty.
we call them
bird-
dirty birds
bird.
because they're not actually white. Because a
tips.
true Merriam
Yep.
has the real white tips on the tail fan, and
Eastern.
Eastern has real dark brown. We'll get the ones that are more of like a cream color or like a light brown, and so those would be kind of they're hybrid birds or dirty birds. They're
Yep.
not true Merriams. They're not true Easterns. They're a hybrid. And the unfortunate thing is most of Nebraska is like that, and most of South Dakota is becoming like that too,
Yeah.
unless you get real west and north, because they do
Is it the
intermingle.
Missouri? Is the Missouri kind of the?
No, I think it's a little
Dividing
more
line?
like.
The Badlands and
If you're going to get
Yeah.
real true Merriams, but where they
Yeah.
classify, like the NWTF would classify a Merriam, like the population of Merriams and the population of Easterns, their cutoff line is, I think, I'd have to look to be 100%, but I thought it was about a third of the way across the state of South Dakota.
yeah, I would.
Which would? It's pretty much the Missouri then. Well, no, third.
Nah,
maybe
Yeah,
not
no.
quite.
it's probably about halfway between the South Dakota border and the Missouri
So
River.
there's Merriam's east of the Missouri.
A little
Yeah,
bit.
there are some.
little
Yep,
yes,
a little
yeah.
bit.
All right.
I'm sure if you hunted that east side of the Missouri,
Now, as
could get
turkey
it.
hunters, you guys, is it in your bucket list, your life plan to do the Grand Slam?
I would
Yep.
love to,
Yep.
absolutely.
Of course it is.
I mean,
You
I've
gotta.
shot an Eastern and I've shot a Merriam. We both have.
Yep.
I've never really went far enough south to get into the Rios, true
Yep.
Rios.
Right.
There is claims and there is a possibility that I might have shot one that might be kind of like a Rio because they supposedly released a small population in the area that we turkey hunt in South Dakota.
Right.
Why would they put Rios in South Dakota?
I don't know. And that was something that we got told by a guide that is in the area. And I think if you actually look on the NWTF map, there might be a little frickin'
little
splotch right there where we're hunting.
So, but generally, if you were gonna go chase a Rio, where would you go?
If I wanted to go get a true Rio, I'm going to Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
there.
People are, you can get them in Kansas, you can get them in Oklahoma. Oh yeah, but then you're looking at. You got the cross in Kansas between Merriams and Rios and Easterns. It's like, if I want a true, I'm going to Texas. Because odds are they're going to be true.
What's the
Rios.
one? What's the one in Florida?
The Osceola.
The Osceola.
Yep, and that's one that is supposed to be pretty tough.
Wait a minute, that's not the one in Mexico.
No, that's the
Oscillated.
Oscillated. Okay, that's super close. Okay,
So
Osceola.
Yep.
And then the Oscillated.
There's four birds.
And
there's
then
four.
things
Yep.
are cool looking.
They look like peacocks. We were talking about that today.
Well, and then in Mexico they have the Goulds.
Yeah, and those are super aggressive birds. Super aggressive.
Yep. So there's actually, I think, what do they call it? The World Slam or something like that. Or
I believe it's six. Is it six?
So you got the 4 in the U.S. and then the 2 down there, isn't there? Is there
one.
So the 4 in the U.S. would be Eastern, Merriam's,
Rio,
and Osceola.
Correct.
Yep.
Then Mexico, you're getting the Oscillated. And what's
the
the other
Goulds?
one?
The Goulds is in
Six
Mexico, and I
Goulds.
think that the Oscillated is even further south into the
it's southern
like
Mexico.
America.
I think like Guatemala down in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so Central America.
Yeah, you're talking the North American continent at this point. Like anything except for like Brazil and like your Dominican
That'd
Republic.
be cool. That's South America. Like
Yeah.
way South America.
Right.
Yep.
So that would be.
I don't know if
that'd be
I'll ever
wicked.
go shoot those.
No.
I mean, it'd be cool, but to me,
So go for the go for the American Slam.
Right, get all four. And when we were in South Dakota, we ran to a couple old timers from Missouri, and they had done, they had 20 years of turkey hunting experience. So obviously, two young guys that we're trying to
at
pick
the
their
time
brain.
we were like 4 years into our turkey experience.
We're
out in
picking
South
their
Dakota.
brain. Yep, we're picking their brain. They had spent a lot of time in Missouri hunting, and we asked them.
Texas one's gonna probably just take some cash because there's not much public land in Texas.
Right, but they said the most difficult hunt to do would be that Texas or the Florida hunt.
Mm-hmm.
For that fourth bird, they said.
I think,
public land.
I think one of the guys had shot his and the other guy hadn't.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
they
they
said there's
said
a ton of public land in Florida either.
No,
except
but
for the Everglades.
And that's what they said. They said you can do everyone's watching on TV. People are hunting in Florida. Nice, peach fields. It's all like picturesque and like romantic.
Palmetto swamps, bro.
Right. Yeah. But then they're like, if you do public land, you got to worry about all the snakes, spiders, gators.
Pygmy rattlers, they call them.
Yeah.
And they're like they're
pygmy
little.
rattlers, yeah.
Yeah, they're little, and they said you got to be really careful because they're and then whatever else other poisonous
Coral
snakes they
snakes.
have.
Eastern
Yeah.
Diamondbacks
They said
down
if you're
there.
gonna go
thank you.
do that,
Yep.
they
Nope.
said. I mean, and
I love it. I love snakes. So I was gonna say when you were telling the story earlier about you set up your blind and there's a snake in there and you hear the rattle and everybody freaks out. I'd be like, I would freak out in a different. I'd be like, ooh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I gotta fuck with it. That's me.
Right.
I have a snake compulsion. If I
Yeah.
find a snake, I have to catch it.
Yep.
I mean, when it comes to rattlesnakes, I don't have to catch it, but I have to get close and take a peek at it.
I've been far too close to rattlesnakes in my life.
So cool. I love snakes. Are just so cool. I was real tempted to try the Steve Irwin one when I was in Arizona. So I was driving up to the Huachuca Mountains, and there was a big diamondback like right in the middle of the road. And my first thing was like, dude, you're gonna get smashed. Like someone's gonna run you over. So I go around him, and I stop. I get out, and he's in that stare. Like if you've ever seen a mounted rattlesnake, he's in that position.
Yep.
He's coiled up, but he's also up. Kind of in that
Tail up.
almost ready to strike. But the next thing, he wasn't really rattling. He was kind of like you'd hear a little. He wasn't full on rattling. So I don't know if he'd already kind of been clipped, maybe. But I mean, he was wasn't acting like real. He was acting weird. He was on alert, but he wasn't like super aggressive. Maybe it was early morning. Maybe it was just warming up. I don't know what the thing was. But as I walked by him, and it's a gravel road, I'm like making noise. As I walked by him, he kind of looked my way real quick, but then went straight back and was staring at my truck. Because they're pit vipers, so he's like, that's the biggest heat signature is obviously my pickup truck.
Right.
So he wasn't really paying attention or worried about me at all. Like he was locked onto my pickup. And I got real close to him behind him. I mean, within arm's reach, basically. And I was doing my hand was already had the kung fu grip, and the devil angel thing on my shoulder, like, do it. You can grab. You know you can grab me. He's not even looking at you. I'm like, this is how people get bit. And I'm like, yeah, but you could grab him. Like,
do you want to have a nub?
No.
This is how you get a nub.
This is how people get bit. I'm like, yeah, well, the truck. If you do get bit, the truck's right there. You can get to the hospital. Ain't a big deal. Like this conversation, like I had a legit devil angel conversation in my head about catching this rattlesnake, and the angel won.
That day.
For better, for worse. I still kind of think back on like. That would have been pretty badass.
Right.
To say I hand caught a diamondback rattlesnake. I'm pretty sure I could have. But I didn't. So I went and I grabbed a stick and I shoot him off the road just so he wouldn't get smashed by the next truck that came along. But I don't know. I had a chance, and now we're totally down a rabbit hole of snake talk now. It has nothing to do with turkeys, but same. This is just what happens. So the same mountain range, I was kind of just doing some like rock climbing, just spending a night just spending a day just fucking around. I mean, I was just hiking and I'm like, oh, it's cool rock outcropping. I'll climb up to it, whatever. So I'm doing it and I'm climbing up. I reach my hand up and hello, pucker factor 11. Like, oh shit.
Thanks, buddy.
So, yeah, like. And so I'm like, where the heck? Now I'm like, there's a rattlesnake. I got to find out where this rattlesnake is. So I climb up to the left of it, and I look, and there's just this little tiny cliff. I mean, it's just like
a ledge of some sort.
Yeah, like a little ledge, a little tiny cave, just basically big enough for him. And
a nice little home.
Little timber rattler in there. He wasn't very big at all. But where I had my hand and where he was, if he wanted to tag me, would have been pretty easy, and he would have hit me right the underside of my forearm, the freeway system of your arteries and veins and everything. Yeah. I am at the top of this mountain. Nobody's going to come. Nobody knows where I'm at. Nobody's coming looking for me. I would have been in a serious world of hurt. And he felt, I assume he was comfortable enough tucked in his little hidey hole there that he was just like, I just want to let you know I'm here. I could have, so you know, I could have bit you and I didn't. So,
right.
And I repaid his kindness with going in and get a stick and fucking with him because I wanted to get a better look at him. But he's super cool looking. Have you ever seen a timber rattler? Like their colors are really vibrant. Like it's just badass. And like once he kind of realized, like he actually stopped rattling, and all he wanted to do was get deeper into that cave. He wanted nothing to do with me. I'm like, Doc, stop running away from me. Come on here, I'm trying to look at you. And finally I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop messing with you. I'll leave you alone. Fine. I'll leave you alone. But yeah, I love snakes. Snakes are badass. But I've actually talked to my wife's cousin. He lives in Miami, and we want to do the python hunts down in the Everglades.
Oh, wow.
That would be cool. Yeah,
not my cup of tea. You have at it, Dale.
But I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. You could eat it because snake is pretty good. But apparently, you're not supposed to eat them because they are super high in mercury. I guess when they get that big, they collect mercury. They do not advise you eating them, but they want you to kill them because they're just
taking over.
There's no small rodents in the Everglades anymore. They're just fucking everything up. Mm-hmm. So it's a bad deal. But anyways. There we go. Had nothing to do with fucking turkeys
snakes.
Whatsoever. Other than the fact that Florida snakes, turkeys, they all live in the same
right.
area. So,
it's going to be an adventure.
So whatever. So what are you guys' plans this year? Are you doing Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm going to do Minnesota. We do archery tags every year.
Yep.
We don't put in for a drawing. We just get archery tags.
Well, and that's beautiful. I'm so glad that they changed that because you used to have to put in, and I never remembered because it's December or January.
I think it's January now. It used to be December.
January you had to put in. It's like, I am not thinking about turkey hunting in January.
So fish to catch.
So exactly. So the application date would come and go, and I'd be like, damn it, I didn't apply for it. So then it was the last 2 weeks were the over the counter after these things have been piss pounded for a month and a half.
Then you're supposed to go chase them with a bow.
Yeah, then you got to go chase them with a bow. And like, oh my god. But fortunately, the population has more than recovered. They're everywhere, and. So now now with an archery tag, archery only, you get the whole season.
Right.
I want to do your seasons. Shotgun, you still have to apply and get your seasons and all that. But
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not too terribly long before they start allowing 2 tags in this state.
Well, one of the other
in certain areas,
right? Because they've already now they used to have to apply for the fall tag too.
Right.
And
now
they're
that's
like,
open season.
and then you could always, then a certain date would come and you could buy surplus tags, and there was always surplus tags. So they finally were like, the permit process is pointless. Nobody is applying for these things.
Right.
So let's just over the counter. Anybody wants a turkey tag, come get a turkey tag. And there's no season. It's the whole month of October.
Right.
Which makes it super easy.
Yep.
From October 1st to October 31st, you can go shoot a turkey. And that's anything. That's hen,
Anything,
Jake, doesn't
Well,
matter.
and that's a thing too to think about too. Let's say you're just a deer hunter here in Minnesota.
Go get a tag.
Go get a tag because it's a great how much. One thing, it gives you a reason to go into the woods. It gives you a reason to get off the couch, go enjoy some nature at some point in degree. But we do a ton of scouting, just in general, at that time of the year. And you got sheds. You find them all the time.
Yeah.
Go mushroom hunting. You can go and explore areas that you're not going to be worried about bumping deer, in August, September. I mean, it's a great avenue. I mean, a lot of times we get conflicted, especially hunting out west, is because it's like, well, do you really want a turkey hunt, or do you really want to go and check out the spot that you think there's a big buck maybe living in, and you might want to try to put a stand up?
It's almost like might as well have one in your wallet.
Yep.
If you're already putting in the time to deer hunt, you're already out there.
Oh, yeah. For
Like
the fall
if one
season.
walks underneath you, well,
Same thing.
now you
It's good
got
practice.
it.
It is.
They're not expensive.
No.
I mean, not for residents, anyways.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what a non-resident fall tag is, but
It's like $28, ain't it?
It's probably something
they're not,
cheap.
It's like, just get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than a turkey in the store, probably.
Just get
Yeah.
it. I mean,
And a lot of times, fall turkeys, that's a kind of different thing. I mean, they're kind of like whitetails at that point. I mean,
they're
you could-
super powerful because they eat.
Well, and
I mean,
it's crazy just how less suspicious they get. In the springtime, them birds, a little bit of movement, they're gone as far as they can run. In the fall time, you could walk up to one and it's just like, oh,
Gotta
hey,
kick them out of the way to
right,
get to your stand.
exactly.
Well, you know what I heard? An interesting way to hunt fall turkeys, because again, you're not just targeting toms. You can
Right.
take whatever you want.
Yep, either species.
So one way is to wait until the whole flock comes out, and then you literally run out in the middle of them.
Yep.
You don't
Bust
try to
'em up.
take
Yep,
one. You
bust
just
'em up.
run out in the field, run out whatever,
Yep.
scatter them to the four winds. Then you tuck back in, and then you start doing your
Yep, 'cause
location.
they start
clucks.
coming
They
back.
Yep.
start they're starting to hey, what happened? Where are you? Where are you? And they start
Yep.
talking to each other. So you start talking, and then they're trying to find.
You got to
and it
be
brings
spot
them in.
on with your call, and you got to have the terrain to do it.
And what I also learned, because I learned this after the fact,
Oh,
a little too late.
those
too
are the
little, too little, too late. But I'm hunting. It was like a cold, wet, rainy day, like pretty 38 or 42. Like it was pretty chilly, and I'm tucked in behind this tree, and here comes the flock, and they're walking single file, and I'm getting ready, and all of a sudden I go to draw, and I'm like, cramp. I can't draw. I'm so cold and stiff and wet. I'm like, I couldn't come to full draw. I'm like, shit. So that little bit of movement, I had all of their eyes on me. Every single bird stopped moving, was staring right at me. And I was staying as still as humanly possible. And it was just a stare down. This felt like forever.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Did you get the
know
death
what?
pluck?
I go, you know what? I'm just going to try to come to full draw as fast as I can and let an arrow fly.
No.
That
They
doesn't work.
react
No, it
so
doesn't.
fast.
Yeah,
They
no.
as soon as I lifted that bow up to start to draw back, they gone.
They're
Right.
running 30 miles an hour
They
the other
gone.
way.
Yep.
And so after the fact, I don't know if I heard it or I read an article or what it was that talked about busting up the flock. They're run out and then because you have all those eyeballs on you, you have the entire flock is watching and looking for danger. But when you scatter them, now they're going to come back in singles and doubles. Well, okay, now you're only dealing with a set of eyes or two sets of eyes.
Well,
not
they're
all
trying
of
to
them.
find. They're trying to get back with the.
Right, they're trying to
group,
regroup.
and
so
yeah.
now you make them vulnerable, more vulnerable, and they're doing something they weren't doing before. You've changed up their pattern. So there's another tip for anybody hunting fall turkeys to
Right.
break them up.
And the
I don't know,
bet-
would that work in the spring? Well, probably not because you're going for toms.
No.
I don't know if it would work as good in the spring because you'd bust them up and they'd.
They'd just run. They'd be gone.
Well,
they'd
you
probably
can-
shut up. They'd probably lock down. And
The only thing that,
wreck
in the
everything.
springtime, that can be, when you're talking about that, so, when you bust them up in the fall time and you're trying to call them back together, a lot of times there's one mama hen. She's
That's a family group.
hen of the pecking order or
Right, so
whatever.
you're competing with her. And depending on how the season is and how spring turns out, a lot of times you'll be competing with that mama hen in the springtime with calling. So there has been times where, let's say you don't get a tom to gobble at you. You know, he's not active, he's not really excited or anything like that, but you can get that hen. A lot of times, that's a time where you pick up the call and you get super aggressive, at least in my eyes. You'll get on that call and you'll combat her. She starts to make noise, you cut her off. You get aggressive. You want her to get mad because a lot of times we've pulled birds to us because that hen's like, what in the world is going on over here?
yeah.
I do not want this.
They're the dominant hen. In
Oh,
the
hell no.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
They get
Exactly.
all
No,
emotional.
no, you didn't.
Uh-huh.
I've had it where if the birds are on the roost even,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done that first little call, I've had them where she'll cut you off
Yep.
because she's like gets all pissy at you. And
Nope.
she'll start cutting you.
Yep.
So then what I do is I'll imitate exactly what she does. I'll do it right back to her.
Just the same notes right back.
Yep. Same cadence.
And it really
same
gets
all
them
that.
going.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, yes,
Yes,
I
I did. Yep,
Yeah, pretty
exactly.
much. And I've had that where I've called a hen in, and she's just cutting and yelping and going crazy from like 250 yards away, and she comes the whole way just going nuts, and I'm going nuts, and she'll come and she stands over that hen decoy
Yep.
and like trying to assert her
Yeah,
dominance
sure.
over it, you know. And
then
sometimes if a tom's with her, they'll come right in with her.
Yep.
Sure, that makes sense.
Especially if you got.
That's one way to hen up birds.
It is. Especially if you got
'cause
sub birds.
There's like cuckoldy toms out there too. Like you think the toms are these big bad, they're strutting and they're kind of getting their way with the ladies, but no, they're just like the pathetic dude in the bar at closing time. He's like, I'm just trying to get
Hanging
some
out with
love
my
in
lady
here.
friends. Yeah.
Hey, will
just
you look at
trying.
me, please?
Yeah, exactly.
So as the morning strut thing hasn't worked out, now they're just kind of shadowing the hands as they go about their business. You're like, I'm over here, guys.
Hey, guys.
Okay, if you ever feel the need.
Right.
Well,
I'm available.
and that, if the toms, as you're getting later in the season, that's another tactic that I use, is as you're getting later in the season and some of those hens have been bred and already are starting to nest, those toms will be with 3-4 hens. And as them hens break off to go to their nests, maybe all of a sudden he finds himself alone. That's when they can be super vulnerable.
Yep.
And so sometimes I'll hunt later in the year. If I know birds are kind of frequenting the same general area, I won't even get up early in the morning. I'll just go out there later in the morning, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And I know by then, hopefully those hens have left him, and he's out in a little pocket
Yeah, and
strutting by himself.
I've heard that and I've read that too. That's another tactic you can use. Like, you
Yep.
don't want to get up early, don't get up early. Actually go in the afternoon because just like you said, sometimes the hens have moved on. The tom is out there strutting his shit and he's trying to get their attention, but he's getting ignored or, they're not receptive or whatever the reason is.
Well, and sometimes they won't be vocal all morning until
Yep.
they've lost all their hens. Then they'll just start gobbling by themselves.
Yeah. So
Yep.
now
And they'll
they're like-
gobble once every 20
Sure.
minutes or something.
And so that's when they're, kind of become vulnerable. Now, now the hens aren't around them; they're by themselves. The hens have gone off to something else, and all of a sudden you give them a little cluck, and they're like, "Ooh, there's somebody over there."
Hey,
Fresh
guys.
meat.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, exactly.
I thought I heard last call, but apparently
That's
you're
where
staying late.
that's always weird too. Like it's happened a few. I've had it happen goose hunting before. The best times to hunt sometimes are between 11 and 2 o'clock. Especially when you start getting later in that end of April or even like in May at any time. You get sleep in. If you don't got a property that's got a roost spot, sleep in.
Right.
Get up, 11, 12 o'clock. If you get up
Maybe
a little
that's
bit-
what I need to try.
Right. Get out there
Get
late.
up early, go do my fishing in the morning,
Yep.
and then go. Then go.
You'd be
turkey
surprised
hunting in the
because them
afternoon.
birds will roam quite a bit different,
Yeah.
especially when there's not active hens. They'll come to, and I've seen birds and had birds come from 7, 8, 900 yards away. All of a sudden you let out a call and they hear it and you'll gobble. You're like, was that a gobble? Like, maybe it's just my ears playing with me. Wait 5-10 minutes, do it again, send out a call, gobbles again.
But this time he's 100 yards closer.
But this time he's 100 yards
Yeah.
closer, and then you just keep
Yeah,
working
he's
that.
coming.
And then once he gets to like 100, 200 yards away, a lot of times you just shut up.
Right.
You want him to keep
yeah.
on looking.
Find you. Yeah,
Yep,
come
come
out,
find
go
me.
look. Now that you're in, come look.
Another tactic that does work real well is hunting roosts in the evening.
Yep. Yeah, we never really talked
Oh,
about
just
that.
skylining him, shooting him right out of the tree.
Yeah,
sign
picking
me up.
limb
No.
fruit, a little limb fruit.
Not exactly. But
That was just to troll everybody.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
so, but we've had it. I mean, say you're on a small piece of property and those birds roost on the edge of your property. Say They roost on your property, but you're got all the woods and there's an open field and they're flying away from you in the morning. So you got no chance in the early morning. Let them go do their thing all day and wait for them either, well, it could be right under the tree or within a close vicinity of where you think they're going to come from. And set up there and wait for them to come by. Now, that's a tactic I don't normally use. If I'm on a 5-day hunt, I don't usually do that until the last day or two.
Right. That's a Hail Mary throw.
Because I don't want to go and I don't want to go, oh, hey, I got these birds on this roost. I know where they're roosting, and I'm going to go blow them out, and they're not going to be there for the rest of the week.
Right.
You know, I'll do that on the last day, or if it's getting late, then I'll do that. But that can be really, really well. If you know that they're like roosting there, you go and set up there in the evening. And a lot of times, as them hens start to fly up, the tom hasn't gone up yet. He will come away from them hens a little bit to look, as long as you're within a decent vicinity of the roost tree. That worked for us in South Dakota that one time. We seen birds working a fence line going back to a known roosting area. We got around and set up, and the birds come down, and they were probably 150 yards away. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like on a corner, and they were coming on the one corner, we were on the other side, and the hens started flying up, but we could get that tom to gobble, calling to him. And after I think the last hen finally flew up, then he's like, oh, well, I'm going to go check out that hen over there because she hasn't flown up yet. He walked all the way over and come into the decoy at 22 yards, and there was a mishap, but
I missed again. It was dark. I was excited. Turkeys get me in a way. It's just something. I tell you what.
It was getting low light.
Turkey did their job. You failed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but I mean that is a tactic that can work really well if you're willing to do it.
I could see that. And so when you guys are out hunting together, do you like take turns? And who gets to take the shot? How does this work? Somebody filming?
Honestly, it's usually Kevin goes because it takes him the longest to get a bird.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
True shots fired, but you're like,
yep,
yeah, that's
I'll
true.
take it. Yep, it is what it is.
No, we'll take turns, but I got started a lot earlier in life on the turkey hunting and stuff, so I've killed a lot of turkeys. So when I go, it's just as much fun for me, whether it's with the kids or my fiance or my dad or you. I have just as much fun seeing someone else get one as it is for me. It's not about me getting the bird or me getting the deer. So I don't have a problem sitting and filming Kevin. Like that one time when you missed that turkey, that was the very first evening we were there, but we knew exactly where those birds go. I said, there's one tom in the group. I said, we go there, we're going to kill him. It's not a tactic I usually do right away, but I said, we're going to kill that bird. We should have killed that bird. But anyway,
right.
So that was the first day.
3 days later.
You need to change your vernacular to, we're going to get a shot at this
bird.
Right,
we have an opportunity.
Right. So anyways, 3 days later, he did kill that bird. But anyways, I go, we're going to go out there. We got, what do we have, 5 days that day?
Yeah,
we were on a 10-day trip, and we were taking 5 days in South Dakota, 5 days in Nebraska. I said, you're going to hunt in South Dakota until you kill a bird, and then I'll hunt.
Yeah, because I had not shot one at that point.
No, he had still had not shot a turkey.
I still not popped my cherry with that. So
I still yet to do it.
Right.
So anyways, we went out there, and I think it took it was 4 days.
Yep.
Because I only had the last evening and the last morning to hunt. I had an evening and a morning to hunt to kill my bird in South Dakota.
We got it done.
And then going, and I ended up killing one.
Yep, so. We got it done. That was my first bird.
Yep.
8 yards?
Did you keep the fan?
68 yards.
You got it?
Yep.
Spurs?
Yep, still got them all. Yep, keep them all.
That's cool. He had patterned his gun out, and he patterned it out to like 60 yards.
Yep.
You're like, oh, it's shooting good.
Man.
He's like, oh, it's shooting good with this choke and this load and everything. It's really good. And so we'll tell a quick story because it's a fun story. We got in there.
My first turkey.
The same bird. And they had roosted the same spot the following morning. We knew where they were because when he missed him, it was with a bow, so it ain't a big deal. He shot over him, didn't hit any feathers or whatever. The bird flies up in the tree. We wait till it gets, black dark. And we sneak out of there. I'm like, well, we know where he's at for sure. He's not going anywhere. We watched him all the way.
Change trees.
I said, let's go back there in the morning. And so he set up in the morning, and he came down, and if I would have been shooting, I could have got him. He was just behind a little bit of brush on this fence line where he couldn't get an angle with the bow. No blind. We were just sitting there. So anyways, the following morning,
we got the blind in.
We did.
Were you able to sleep that night?
Of course.
after missing the bird. No,
Well,
he's
yeah.
pretty used to missing, so it was
Right,
all right.
yeah, exactly. Yep. It's part of it. You got to be
Par
able
for the
to.
course.
So-
You got to be able to
I feel
accept
like
it.
I would have been excited, like knowing that bird's there, and knowing
Oh,
I get a
no,
second
yeah,
we
bird
were
there,
excited
I'm
about
like,
that, but that
wouldn't slept for anything.
right. So we go out there, and we set up the blind, and nothing happened. They were roosted in a different spot and worked all the way across this big pasture and went down. And every day they're going kind of the same spot. So I'm like, God, they're gonna. I'm like, tomorrow morning we'll go down there and try it again. But if they do the same thing again, we're gonna freaking get up on this ridge and we're gonna go around. And I kind of knew that we were gonna be out of the ball game that morning. But I more so wanted to watch. Did we even go to the blind that morning?
Yeah, we
Killtail?
did. We heard them gobble, and it was like way over yonder. Like, they're not here.
Right.
Nothing
so-
off the roost tree that we typically picked them out of.
Right. So
No,
we
they're
knew
not
they were
there.
way off. And so they started coming down. I'm like, they're going to end up in the dang corner again. So we scaled up this big bluff. It's probably 200 yards
Yeah, like it's.
up this big bluff. I mean, and it's steep.
Yeah.
It's like it was horrible.
Mountain-
I was
Yeah.
I was gassed by the time I got up there.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Yeah.
we get up there and we get behind far enough off so they can't see us on the skyline of the front on the roof because the things see too good.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
Yeah, it's not
they
fair.
can see really good. So we hauled butt and we got probably it was 800 yards down, 1,000
Yeah,
yards down.
yeah. I mean, we didn't walk. We trotted.
We
Yeah.
covered ground. We got in front of them, and I'm like, all right, well, they're back here and they're coming. I said, we got to start making our way back down this bluff. And I think it's steeper on that end than it was where we went up. Because
It's
there are
all-
parts we had to
yeah.
like slide down on our butt.
Yep.
So we get down there, and I'm like, oh, the birds are getting pretty close. You know, we got to get this last little bit, or they're not going to be in range. You know, and we might get busted. So we get down. I think we shimmied down the last little bit, and I'm like, we're stuck. We can't go any further. We're pretty much running out of room with cover, but they were getting close enough to where if we moved, they were going to pick us off.
Right.
Well, the birds come out, and I don't know if a hen spotted us or what, but they come out, and I'm ranging the tom. I'm like,
We're hiding
It's like-
behind one, like, 2-year-old cedar tree.
yeah, it's
On
like
the side of
2
this
foot
hill.
high.
2 feet tall.
And I'm like
Yep.
laying down ranging
Yeah.
him. I'm like, okay, he's at like 68, 70 yards right there.
65 to the fence, and
And
he's
I'm
like
like-
a couple feet past it.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I said, I don't know if you can make that shot or not. I said, do you think you can make it? He's like, oh yeah, I think I can get him. And I'm like, all right. And at that time, that hen had started walking back, so he's about to turn and go backward from where they had just come. I'm like, well, if you're going to shoot him, you better do it quick. And he shot, and I wouldn't be damned if that thing dropped stone dead. So,
Wow.
That's a note to everyone that's listening. Make sure you pattern your gun and you try out different chokes and different ammunition.
yeah.
Because we have heard, especially running into a couple guides out in South Dakota, we have heard some horror stories about people just being like, yep, I heard to buy this choke, I'm putting this ammo in it,
yeah.
and
Well,
they go out there and they burn up boxes of ammo and miss birds after birds.
There was
that's
a
across the
guide-
board, even waterfall hunting, whatever.
Yep,
it is.
same
Like,
thing.
You
You
gotta,
gotta
every
know.
gun is different. I don't care if you're buddy, you're shooting the exact same make model.
They're all different. All
the
different.
bores, the way they're made, they're all different, and it sucks because you almost gotta have to buy a box of every type, every
Right.
Yep.
brand of ammunition to find out which one patterns the best.
Well,
on
and
your
I don't know
gun.
if you've shot a whole lot of turkey loads, but that is not the most enjoyable experience
Oh,
you'll ever experience in your life.
Are you
It's
shooting
not
3.5?
No, I shoot 3 because they pattern better, but 3.5s will like kick me off my heels. Like
They're bad.
hello.
They'll
You
wall
ever
up
shoot
you.
that dead coyote, the heavy?
I have not.
No. Yeah. Need a mouth guard when you pull a trigger because it's gonna. Yeah.
But yeah, shoot, I
You're
think
not using that on snow geese.
Nope.
Extended magazine. I guarantee goddamn
Right.
that.
You just
Well,
gotta
and
throw
this-
one in.
Jesus.
to talk about making sure your stuff works good. That guy that was telling us out in South Dakota, he had 4 guys. Each one of them had 25 rounds when they got there.
Stop it.
Each one had 25 shells. I mean,
Yep.
you bring a box of shells. Well, turkey shells are a box of 10, whatever. Every guy had like 25 shells.
Yep.
25 or 30.
And they both had 2 tags.
Every
So 8
guy
tags
had
total.
2 tags. They left with
On the-
6 birds.
Yep.
And they went home with 8 shells between all 4 of them.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah. Talk about a guide making his money.
And they didn't even kill all their birds. They missed like 4 birds the first day,
Yep.
6 the second day, 5 the third day. It was unreal.
in every way possible, off the roost, spot and stock, in the areas where the birds are, every
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
that guide, poor guide.
They're buying.
He's like, I've
cases
never
of
had.
shotgun shells.
He's like, I've
Snow
never
Goose
had
hunting
to
for
look
turkeys.
for so many birds for one group of guys in my life.
Wow.
Yep.
They missed probably like 30 birds while
Yep.
they were down there.
Oh my God.
It was insane.
Just stop.
Right.
Just pick a different option.
Well, and one of the guys was a cop.
Right.
Well,
It's like, how can he not?
It's not a 9.
Right. Well, that's that whole thing. Make sure you get your head down.
But the thing, if you don't pattern, see, here's the
Yep.
thing: you actually could be aiming right, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You might have a giant hole in your pattern.
Yep.
You
Seen
might
it.
be holding the gun right. Your head's down on the stock. You've done everything right, but the brand of shotgun shell that you decided to shoot out of your gun with that choke couldn't have been more wrong.
Right.
And literally all that shot went around that bird.
Yep.
Right. Well, and the other thing is I mean, there's an excitement level there.
Oh, yeah.
And you hear it a lot of guys talk about it in sports and everything else. You got to slow the game down, and I think that is something that you struggled with a lot in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Being new to the wilderness
and that's
everything.
part of the reason
Whew.
why I think you missed. I mean, not to poke at you, but so many birds, and you missed some
So
deer.
many.
So many. It's like, I'll be the first one to admit it.
I don't even want to put a number on it because
Right.
you
It's
wouldn't
bad.
believe me.
It's bad. I've had plenty of opportunities. My wall should be covered from floor to ceiling in fans at this
So
point in
many.
life.
Well, I think the most you missed was probably 6 in one trip.
Jesus
Yep.
Christ.
But
With a
that
bow.
was bow
With a-
hunting.
that's a bow.
That's bow hunting. And I'm not going to lie, that trip, I had a rough trip as well.
Emptying
And
your quiver out, having to go look for arrows to try to reload
Well, I
them.
hit that turkey on the last arrow.
Right. Then we chased him for, 600 yards, and he ran away with the arrow
He
still stuck
flew
in him?
away with the
All right,
arrow.
I want to touch on that. I'm going to go back to shot placement a little bit, but I'm going to tell a quick story. So I get what you're saying, the excitement level, because I should have had my first turkey, even with a bow, this last fall. I got a nice new box stand I built for myself out in the back of my property here. It's beautiful. So I can move all I want. Turkeys aren't going to see me. It's great. I
Yep.
knew they were coming through at the same time every day. Single file, family group. Like, perfect.
Got it.
So my fishing partner, Joel,
Oh, yep.
was with me. He's like, oh, I'm going to sit in there with you. I'm like, all right.
That's cute.
And so they came out, and he got, super excited.
Oh, man.
And so I'm like, I'm picking my bird out that I'm going to shoot, and he's like, shoot that one right there. He was just getting he was out of his mind. He was just
Right.
like,
And
shoot.
then-
I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm shooting this one over here. I'm trying to be quiet. He's like, no, shoot that. Hurry up. I'm like, so I come out and I shoot over the top. I'm like, God damn it. And then these things are 15, 20 yards.
Right.
Well, that's
you
the
put
worst
me 15,
thing.
20 yards at the
Yep.
range. I do not miss the target. I
Right.
don't. I'm not saying I'm the best shot in the world,
Nope.
Right.
but at that range, I'm going to hit something. No, I hit nothing. So that one keeps going. There's more birds still coming out of the woods. No big deal.
Well, I think that's part of the problem.
Knock another arrow. He's
Yep.
still like, okay, you got another shot. I'm like, now I shoot underneath him. I'm like, would you shut up?
Right.
Just but
Well,
I
I had
should
it
have
where-
just blocked him out. I should have just been like,
Exactly.
tune him out,
Right.
settle in my pin, do what I've done 8 zillion times,
Right.
make the shot, kill the bird. But he was so excited about it, and he
You got to be careful.
swept me up in it.
You got to be careful with who is in your blind, because if that other person's getting wound up tight, you're going to get it.
Well, right. And remember, I know I had it when Ryan was with me one time. It happened. And I think I've done it to you.
Right.
And not even thinking about it.
Right.
And it's not that I'm so excited, but it's like, okay, you got to shoot him, or shoot that one or whatever.
Yeah.
And just hearing that somebody tell you to shoot him or whatever,
Right.
or
Worst
you know,
thing, tell
get that one.
somebody.
It's like all of a sudden they might have had everything under control and everything was good. All of a sudden you put everything in fast forward in their head.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know I've done it to you on accident, not
Yep.
even thinking about it.
Nothing else just broke their concentration. You broke
Yep.
their train of thought. You
Right.
they might have had everything settled in, and all of a sudden you just distracted them. Now
Yep.
you're back to square one.
Right.
But now you're not at square one because maybe you're already a full draw, and just changing the order in which you do stuff
Right.
can mess you
Yeah.
up.
And that's the thing. Making it, you got to slow the game down. You got to think about your shot, your everything just like you normally do it, your shot process. However, when you're under the stress or under the high adrenaline rush, you need to have
crack.
enough of, and it goes back to practicing.
Yep.
You need to make it so it's second nature.
Muscle memory.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean,
You
just
don't
like
have to think about it; it just happens.
Yep.
just like just like skipping a jig under a dock.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, not everybody can do it, but doing it is like an art, but you do it enough that you get that fluid, the muscle memory, just like shooting a bow, just like shooting everything.
Anything. I don't care if it's playing the guitar. I don't care if it's shooting basketball. I don't care if it's riding a unicycle.
Yep.
It's whatever it is you want to do, you do it so much that muscle memory. That muscle memory is everything. It's everything.
It needs to be second nature to you.
If you have to stop and think about it, you're probably fucked.
Exactly. And so I think that's part of the reason that a lot of guys, they maybe go out with their shotgun and shoot 3-4 times before the season, and that's it.
Yep.
They've never shot, just like with a rifle. You're, I missed this big giant buck at 80 yards, and they shot their gun like once in the last 3 years, and it was sighted in, and it's good enough. And I mean, it's the same thing. You got to practice with what you're doing, and it is.
I will admit though, like I don't practice with my shotgun. Like for bird hunting.
I know I'm a better reaction shot.
I shoot snows in the spring, and then I waterfowl hunt in the fall. But as we get, I know it's kind of an excitement thing. As we get close, some of my hunting buddies will be like, "All right, we should probably go to the range." I'm like, "You and your range,
you pay your fees. You shoot those orange little saucers.
Stop it." And they're always the worst shots, anyways, when you're in the field. Like,
you know what though? How many guys that are really good at shooting clays, or vice versa, are good at shooting the other?
Yeah, it's a different animal.
I can actually shoot birds pretty damn good, ducks and geese and stuff like that. I can't shoot trap for shit. I'll go shoot an 8 as many times as you want.
You need a solid 8 on your team?
Yeah. Want a good handicap?
Exactly. But I can go shoot a limited ducks.
Yep. So when it comes down to, I'm going to go back to, there's 2 points I wanted to make, so I'm going to do the second point. Shot placement. So everything's working right. Where are you headshotting them? Are you doing that thing right where the wing starts?
Shotgun,
trying to go
you're
for
always head shooting them, obviously.
Put the bead.
Better. But I guess I was referring to archery.
For archery,
shotgun. Yeah, you better be aiming for the head. If you're blasting that meat, you're a moron because that's the whole reason you're there.
Well, they got so much there that you got to get through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you go for the headshot.
I know a lot of guys.
That's a small target.
It's kind of vice versa because, I mean, you really think about it. If you look at the anatomy of a turkey, their heart and lung area in that chest cavity really isn't any bigger than their head and neck and wattles. No. So, I mean, it all depends on it's kind of a confidence thing. I mean, if you think you could head shoot them and you are set up and you want to head shoot them, then, yeah, that's fine. But you better have them birds in the decoys close and occupied on what they're doing and not moving a lot. Body shooting them, I mean, you hit them a little low and back, you're taking out their legs, they're not going really anywhere. You hit them in the wing butt, they're not going anywhere.
They fly.
Right.
I've seen a ton of videos where you zip one right through them, and they take off. I mean, it ain't like tracking a deer. I mean,
no. However, if you do hit them and hit them through both hips, they're not getting off the ground.
They can't run, can't fly. Think of that too.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is that, but for me, most of the time, I'm looking for either a broadside or a facing straightaway shot.
Right up the bunghole?
Well, no, not a strutting.
I've heard that. I've heard that strutting,
and
like
guys,
that your pinpoint is their asshole.
Yep.
Right. Yep. But I like when they're not strutting, I like them facing straight away. Because you aim where their chest is, you got their vitals on both sides of their spine, but if you hit them in the spine, they're toast. They ain't going anywhere. Sure. And I would prefer myself to shoot a bird that's not in strut.
Right.
I would rather not shoot them in strut. I have. And then when they're strutting, if you look at a strutting bird from the side, there's a copper bar on their wing. And usually you're aiming for that copper bar or just a hair in front of it, because that's basically on the anatomy of a bird. When they're in full strut and their wings are down, that's where their chest sits behind.
Have you ever shot those guillotine heads that have the giant blades?
That's happening
only
this
at blackbirds.
Yeah, I remember that.
Allegedly.
What was that?
We were
goose hunting?
We were goose hunting in
bows.
St. Michael at the city hall.
Yep.
With permission of the city.
We had permission
of the city.
Yeah, this wasn't like getting there in the dark and hope no one sees us.
If this ever comes about again,
right?
My phone better fucking.
Right. So, anyways, we're there. We had 2 ground blinds set up. There's a couple of us in there, and we had the guillotine heads on.
Yep.
And God, I wanted to shoot one, and one of the guys goes, "Hey, shoot that blackbird." Shot that blackbird. I hit him, and it went in 3 pieces.
Yeah, just bye.
Oops. It was a starling, of course, because those are not protected.
Exactly.
It was a Sterling.
Clearly, those were black or starlings.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Obviously.
But yeah, it was. That's the only time I shot them. But I did learn they are very accurate.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yep.
And that was
They
shooting.
would wander a bit or catch.
Well,
some
that was
wind.
shooting the Magnus. They were the not the plug or anything, but they're the Magnus bullheads in the 100-grain ones. So they're not the bigger ones. They're a little bit smaller. And I shot there, so you can buy the arrows all set up and everything. They're full-length arrows because with those guillotines, you can't shoot them. If you're normally cut to where they come back to your riser a little inside, you can't shoot them, so you have to shoot a full-length arrow.
Oh, sure.
But they come fletched with feathers.
I might be screwed then because I think like my draw length is so long. Brand new box of arrows. They don't really have to trim them, but I think they take off like a quarter or maybe an eighth of an inch off.
You'd have to look because I think they actually might even be a little longer than a normal full-length arrow. But anyways, they're already built to shoot these broadheads. So they're like a 5-inch feather, 4 or 5-inch feather, 3 fletched, everything with a helical. So we just sighted in with those arrows with a field tip on them and put them on, and they shot like money out to like 50 yards.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
So I was really impressed. But the nice thing on those Magnus is if you're shooting the smaller 100 grain and not the 125, they're rigid and beefy enough. You could body shoot one if you had to. Where that's one thing that's a negative for the other ones is that if you go to body shoot them, you're going to snap the blades off.
Yeah.
Where
You're
if
not
you're
gonna
say you're
cause
shooting,
any
you're at
damage.
full draw on a turkey and something happens and he's like, and going to take off,
Puts
walking
his
away
head
from
down.
you, you could take and just put that on his body and punch it through his body, you know.
Sure.
And they're beefy enough to take it, so.
That's pretty sweet. So, all right. Well, you guys, you do some videos. So, where can people find your videos? You got YouTube, I assume.
Well, we're doing. I'm doing stuff on YouTube. I'm a partner for Mission Outdoors. We have a YouTube page, channel, and we have a Facebook page and Instagram.
It's all Mission Outdoors.
Mission Outdoors, and we're trying to get some stuff put up from this last year, and I have some older video that we're going to try to get up from years past, and some of the stuff even that you and I have done together. We're going to try and get up and get some stuff posted, and that's the major outlet that I've been using lately, and for our filming. And
You post stuff on any personal pages or just?
I do post
send
some
them
on my
right to
personal
Mission-
page
Mission
here and there,
Outdoors?
but
I don't think. You know what? I'll just do it right now. I'll fire up my phone.
Getting the old interweb.
If you're listening to this right now, go to your phone. Unless you're driving, don't do that.
Right, that's not safe.
Search bar, Facebook, Mission, position. Outdoors. Why isn't it filling it? There it is. Did you know there's a SC Mission Outdoors team? Is that something totally different?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
I'll
Mission
pick that
Outdoors.
one. 5.6 thousand likes. That's pretty good.
So, but we've been really working on trying to get some content going on our YouTube page, and we're gonna get some stuff going. A lot more stuff going on this
You
year.
have been liked. Now I'm gonna go to. Now I'm gonna run over to Instagram. Is it Mission? Is there any underscores or anything like that?
I don't think so. See, that's the thing. My partner Dave runs the
Search.
Instagram.
Mission Outdoors. Let's see what comes up. Oops, not put doors. Fat thumbs. Mission Outdoors. They're all Mission Outdoors TV. The Mission Outdoors.
Let me see. Does it have
There's
like a picture?
bunch of them.
That would be the top one, Mission
Ooh,
Outdoors
that's
TV.
a good place to be.
Right.
Well done. So if you're on Instagram, you want to find the Mission Outdoors TV, all one word.
Yep. And it should be a red and black Mission Outdoors logo.
Following. There.
So,
see?
But we're gonna
Sounds
try and get a bunch of stuff going on yet this spring. Get some video out and get some stuff going and really push for some big stuff. And a lot of things we do on there is public land deer hunting, but we do a lot of turkey hunting with youth, as well as Dave does some disabled veteran mentored hunts.
That's awesome.
As well. So he does. I haven't done any of
We'll have
that
to
with
get
him,
them
but
on the
he's
podcast.
yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. I know he would probably be more than open to do it, but he takes, he does a lot of youth and disabled veteran mentored hunts. I think he said the first couple weeks here of April, I think he's going to southern Wisconsin to do a couple of mentored hunts.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's
he does a
super
lot of
cool.
that. He's involved with that a lot, and I'm going to try and get more involved in it. I haven't done any disabled veteran stuff, but I've taken some
Well,
youth
you're
and
hunting with, he's mentally
Right.
disabled.
Help me.
I definitely did mentor Kevin,
Yep.
as you
Yep.
can see, but
But that's
that was fun. I mean, and it
Mentor
really
the
just
mental. That's your
right. Yep. If he could get me to shoot a bird, he could get anyone to shoot a bird. So
Yeah.
you're in safe hands.
Yep. Well, I know. And the thing is,
So
is
you have
we
mission outdoors, and then when Kevin's involved, it's missing outdoors.
Right.
yeah. Well.
Wow.
I do have plenty for a blooper reel if that's.
Oh
what you're
my
wondering.
goodness.
Oh,
we should.
you want to? Actually, you should put that together.
Yep.
You want to know which gets more hits on
Right.
on YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Probably that one.
Oh yeah.
I could
bet.
be a famous person for all the misses I've gotten.
It was one video and you'd be famous.
I know.
It'd go viral.
One weekend. One good weekend.
Good golly.
Right. But yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Kevin and I we just
Everybody
started
misses.
That's
working
part of it.
together.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's how we met. We worked together, and not now, but we did. And
Yep.
yeah, just a couple of buddies going hunting, and it just evolved into really an addiction for both of us
Yeah.
for turkeys and.
That's cool.
Deer hunting.
I mean, I was
It
already
hasn't-
doing
I
a
mean,
little bit
honestly, it just hasn't taken me, but I haven't really given into it either. I haven't done it. And when we were talking on the phone, setting this podcast up, I was kind of explaining. It's like I'm a DIY kind of guy, and I pick something. So like one part in my life, I'm like, I want to trap, and I poured all my energy into trapping, and
You
I
have to at times with that
read
sort of stuff.
articles, and I watched videos, and I just absorbed as much information as I could. Went out and bought some traps, and went out and started setting traps, and then it took a few years. Then I got to a level where I was getting, I was pretty successful with it, and it's like, okay, well, I did that. Now what's next? And I kind of moved on to the next thing.
Right.
And I have my staples. Like I'll never not waterfall hunt. Like I am completely obsessed with ducks and geese for sure.
Right.
So I mean that's not going anywhere. I'm always going to do that. But there's always new things, and turkey just hasn't taken its turn yet. I'm sure it's going to come, and then when it does, when my brain goes, all right, let's do turkeys, I'm going to go full retard on it, and then that
Right.
That's
Well,
just how
that's
it's gonna
kind of
be.
like Kevin doesn't deer hunt in Minnesota very much. I don't know
Right.
if he did have it all in the last couple of years, but he's big waterfall.
Yep.
But then he goes down, and we go down to the lease, and it's freaking. He deer hunts and does everything just as much as somebody that hunted every weekend of the year. I mean, he's
Yep.
all
all
a
in.
good deer hunter, but he loves to do the waterfall, and that's kind of where I had to draw a line. I was at a point in my life, and this has been a few years now. It's like I can't do both well. You got to pick for waterfall and deer hunting. You got to pick one, because you can't be a really good waterfall guy and do a lot of deer hunting,
and
be a really good deer hunter.
No, I agree.
You
with
got to
that,
do
and
one
I-
or the
and
other.
I definitely chose waterfall.
Yep.
Right. And so for me, I like waterfalling. I had a lot of fun doing it. I do enjoy it, but it's not. I don't know if it was because I was lucky at a young age to have so much success deer hunting, or what it was, but I've always been drawn to bow hunting deer. I mean, I just have, and ever since I shot my first deer with a bow,
I
I
love
was
it.
absolutely obsessed.
I
I
love
never
it.
wanted to pick a
I
gun
love
up
it,
again.
but it doesn't. It's a big draw for me, but it will always take a backseat to waterfall hunting.
Right.
It just always will.
And
That's
there's
for sure. That's
and
my main obsession.
That's perfectly
when
fine.
It comes to
I mean,
hunting.
everybody
no,
is
it is.
different,
Yeah,
so.
I'm not. It's neither here or there or different. It just is what it is. Like that's just where my main obsession lies. Like
Right.
and for me, it's. And the reasons are varied. I mean, for me, I think it's the variety. When you duck hunting, there's different kinds of ducks that all look different, that all act different. There's geese, there's water hunting, there's field hunting, and there's deer hunting. Shoot, generally there's one and done. I mean, there's does, but when it comes to
It all
bucks,
depends on
yeah.
where you go.
but,
Yeah.
but when it comes to bucks,
Right.
you can,
Yeah.
at least in this state, you can only take one
Right.
buck.
Well, and that's
Right.
kind of the thing. I had gotten into hunting out of state at I was 19 when I took my first trip to South Dakota deer hunting. And so I got into it really early, going out of state. So I always had the opportunity to hunt I've shot deer, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, and I hunt at least 3 states every year, if not 4.
Oh, first one. We
And so-
lost our first victim to the bathroom. Weak
And-
bladder.
And so it's like,
It's only been 2.5 hours. And how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 bush lights. That's between 3 people, though.
right.
We're
Well,
not
and I stopped at 2 and
completely
started drinking on my coffee.
Well,
a little
that's
bit.
not going to help. That coffee's got to be cold as fuck.
Oh, it's like iced
That's
coffee now. So, but I got involved in the deer hunting out of state, so I always had opportunity that if I shot a deer here, I could go out there or whatever. And so, I don't know. I've just always been drawn to the deer hunting, and the hunting out of state is what really pushed it over the edge for me. I mean, it's insane. And I tell people all the time, and this is kind of way off topic because we're supposed to be talking about turkeys, but the same applies. The further that I get outside of the Minnesota border, the better hunting I found. And that's not necessarily because there's not quality hunting here. I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of pressure once you get out of the state, and that's more so going west.
What I was gonna ask is it better hunting or a better experience because it's different? Maybe a mix of both.
I guess if you're I think it's both, because I think you're not only hunting animals, and it's not that there's more animals, because there isn't. There's actually quite a bit less deer and turkeys in those states that I go to, out like in Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, than there is in Minnesota. However, there's less population of hunters, so they're less pressured. So I can go out and hunt. We've been hunting public land in South Dakota for 10 years. I've never seen another hunter out there in 10 years.
Wow.
Of bow hunting.
That's pretty impressive.
So, and
That's an awesome feeling, by the way.
Yeah.
and it's not that I love I mean, public land is great, and I think we should have more of it. And I think it's great that anybody can go out there and utilize the resource, and that's good, and that's what we should have. But there is a part of it where when you're out there and not seeing anybody else, and there's just that solitude, and you know you're the only one, or you and your partner that you're hunting with are the only one on this 5 square miles of public
that's
ground.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, so it's kind of, and it is, the part of it is that it's different hunting, and then you're hunting animals that are not pressured. I mean, that is what to me makes it better. But I mean, you talk to anybody a lot of my friends, once you get outside of Minnesota, it's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is.
Well, it's going to be, for, like we said, the varied reasons. It's going to be pressure, different topography. I mean, it's always going to.
Right.
It's going to be different than
Yep.
what you're used to here. But that's pretty cool. Well, we'll have to talk about that at a later episode. We'll do a deer hunting one, because I think that'd be interesting, like how you go about doing your public.
And I'm
hunts.
way more of a deer hunter than I am a
All right.
turkey hunter.
Well, you had a lot
I love
to say about
turkey hunting, but
hunting,
boy,
so
you get me going on deer, we
That's
might
the
be
thing.
talking for 4 hours.
that's fine with me. It's all good. We'll do a 2-parter if you have to. It doesn't
Right.
matter. So yeah, as the summer wears on and people start getting fired up about deer hunting, we'll
Right.
have to
Well,
do this again.
another thing I thought about is maybe if we get you down to Nebraska, we could film your hunt while you're down
Yep.
there with us, and then we could
Turks.
Yeah.
do for turks, and then we could do like a turkey camp. We
Yep.
could do a podcast at the end of
that'd
every
be
day.
fun.
Yep.
That'd be
all right
kind
with
of
that.
fun.
Well,
We
because
could,
Joel's been chewing on my ear ever since I told him. I was like, yeah, I hunt
And
Nebraska.
He doesn't even hunt.
I know, he's like, I want to go shoot a turkey. All of a sudden, I'm
well,
like,
yeah, but
oh,
it sounds like
he's
he gets
less
excited about them.
interested- yeah.
right, exactly. So hooked.
I wonder if that's what did it. Like,
Yep.
he's like, as I've known Joel,
He's a closet
never
turkey
gave two
enthusiast.
shits about turkey
Yeah.
hunting
He's a
ever.
closet enthusiast. That's
Until
what it is.
last fall when he's
Yep.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna sit in the stand with you." I was like, "What did you just say?" He's like, "Oh, I don't got anything better. I'm gonna sit in the stand with you." I'm like, okay, all right, sure." Like, I don't even know if I've heard you utter the word turkey ever.
Oh,
Like,
he's gonna be
much less
so
pursue
hooked.
it.
Oh god.
You meet Joel, yeah. That
Well,
dude.
here's it. He is going to be hooked, and,
Yep,
and I'll probably
yep,
get hooked. Well,
yep.
maybe. Well, I will, but in a different way. I was going to say because he's a big time waterfowler, but he's even more specialist. Like he's a goose hunter, and he likes to call geese, and he's actually a pretty
Yep.
good caller. And so I think the interaction, the turkey calling, I think that would really
Yep.
solidify him a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But what you've told me now is that when you're in Nebraska, you don't really call that much, so
Well,
that
we
might
do.
not come into it.
We'll see. We'll let them call and scare a few away first.
Right.
Then
And then we'll show him how it's done.
And then show 'em.
He's gonna come back looking like a different person. I know that
Well,
one
that's
time.
probably a good thing.
Yeah, you definitely shed some pounds when you're out there. You want to definitely.
Oh yeah.
I can't do that. Thank you very much. I don't.
Well, look
have
at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Look at me. Yeah.
Look at that deer that Amanda shot this year. We freaking covered a mile in about 10 minutes up and down this big, huge
Honestly, you know what'd be
ridge
fun?
to
So
get
is
on
the,
this
is
deer.
the South Dakota deer, is that over the counter?
The deer is, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
South
might be-
Dakota
I-
is
I
over the
might
counter.
be. I could probably be
For
talking
archery.
To that.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
archery.
I have no interest in shooting
So.
a deer with a gun either,
So
or elk. I want to do an elk hunt too. Same thing. I have no interest. I have never shot an antlered deer in my life, and I still want to elk hunt. I'm like,
Yeah.
shouldn't you get the one out of the way first before you know?
Yeah.
But I want the meat. So like, I don't even need a bull elk. I'll shoot
right.
I would shoot a cow elk and not think twice. Like, hell yeah, freezer full.
Filler.
Let's do this.
Right.
Delicious.
So yeah, maybe we'll have to plan something out on trying to get down there at some point with
Yeah, that'd be fun.
that, and if
mean,
you're really-
I know this this particular spring right now is pretty open. So I mean, I
Okay.
don't have a ton. I mean, hopefully I'll
Yeah.
be snow goose hunting like a.
well, if you
a
got your
sun-
heart set on shooting one with a bow, that'd be a
sun
spot
bee.
to do it.
Yeah, no,
It's
a
a fairly target-rich environment.
Right.
I'm in. Just keep me informed when you guys are planning on doing it, and they'll just have to block that time out. Just do it.
Yep.
Where do you guys stay when you're down there?
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air now because we did have a place that we leased. The landowner had a extra house there.
I do have a Yeti wheelhouse. Then.
Yeah.
Well, that would definitely
We-
be a good idea.
We've camped it actually in the
In the
springtime.
springtime, we've camped.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
It's been
When
cold.
we snow goose hunt, we camp.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, just pitch a tent
I'll
and-
put a buddy heater in the decoy trailer when it's empty, and I'll sleep in there.
Yep.
We'll take the hub house, the ice houses.
Yep.
We'll set those up with some cots. We'll sleep in there. I love
Right.
camping in the field. Like, you don't have to travel
Right.
45 minutes to some piece of shit motel that's way
Yep.
Well, the
price
thing that we
gouging
had
you
going
because it's
for
in the
us-
middle of the spring snow goose season. It's like
right.
you're right there. You're
Yep.
literally right there. Get
Well,
up.
the thing
go
we
hunt.
had
It's
going for us
awesome.
is that the land that we were leasing, there was an extra house there, fully furnished,
That's cool.
everything.
Yeah.
So we were staying right there. We just go hop on the 4-wheelers and go.
That's pretty,
And now
that's
it sounds
beautiful.
like they
That's
rented the
beautiful.
place out to an older gal.
Sure.
So it doesn't sound like that's going to be
Oh, well,
available
I'm sure we
to
could
us.
come out,
But
depending on how many people there is. I mean,
well, we could make
could-
it work. We could either
the
tent
Yeti
it.
sleeps 3 comfortably, 4 if two
Well, I'm
guys
like-
are willing to cuddle.
I'm
He's
like,
like
half
half
a
a guy.
person. Yeah, I'm like half a guy.
All right, well, you and Joel and Tom
Right.
bunk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Struggle,
So
snuggle. Here we
I saw
come.
I saw the beginning bromance today out there fishing. You guys were chumming up pretty good. So I
Jealousy.
don't-
That's
don't
all I
think-
hear.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. No, I was fine by myself. I was left alone. Usually
Yep.
Joel's irritating the shit out of me. And
Yeah.
instead he
Decoy.
was-
Got one.
Yeah. I'm like, this works out great for me. I get to be left alone. He's not telling me I'm doing everything wrong. This is perfect.
Yep. Yeah, we'll figure something out. I mean, whether it's camping or if we want to pull the wheelhouse out, whatever. I mean, we'll
Yeah,
figure
Well,
it out.
if we go
figure
and camp where we usually camp, then we can,
We'll
during
be
the
right
middle
there
day-
by the Bass Flake.
Yeah, we go right there. Bring
Bass puddle.
bus puddle.
But
Yeah,
we were out there.
Oh,
What
my
we
goodness.
were
Threatened me
throwing.
with a good
We were
time.
Oh, it is.
throwing swim baits and spinner baits, and I think we caught over 100 fish in
Oh
one
yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah, it was just stupid. Just stupid.
I'm in.
It's
I'm
and
in.
if it wasn't
Yep.
so shallow, it could be a really good
I
crankbait bite.
know. I know. We tried.
Just use a shallow. Just use that.
We
Wake,
tried.
wake crank.
There
Wake
you go.
crate,
Well,
yep.
yeah.
Those work.
Swim bait.
But
Do it.
yeah,
Get
it
into
was
it.
fun. I mean, it's like probably 30 feet deep at the very deepest spot in the very
Oh, that's
middle.
pretty deep.
But it's only like 4 acres, and there.
Yeah.
We were just one after another. We caught probably four or 5 pounders out of there.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's fun.
On
Yeah.
anything you could
Shit.
throw.
The more you keep adding into it, I'm in. Let's do this. All
It's
right,
a-
hit me with the dates off air, and let's just plan on doing it.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yep.
I'm in.
I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
Let's
as long
do
as
it.
it doesn't interfere with plans I already have. But well, we'll just have to figure it out. Awesome, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Yep.
we
Thanks,
appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. I'm
Gobble,
here.
gobble, bitches.